Here we go.
Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell. Alrighty, BoobTubes, welcome to a weekend edition of your daily PoliTITS fix. I need something to chew up the time before the old film. Of your daily PoliTITS fix. I need something to chew up the time before the old film. So good. Daily PoliTITS fix. So good, I will say it twice. So good, I will say it twice. So I just thought, like, if you monitor, anybody that monitors the news cycle, the weekend's always a good time. It's like, when's a good time to bury bad news? Well, the weekend's a good time to get things through without many people noticing, if you get me. You get less of a reaction, let's say, at the weekend because everybody's out doing shit, you know? Praying to their gods, football teams, boozer, etc, etc. The daily PoliTITS, very simple premise. Look at as many talking holes as we can. We'll do the Sky News first because they no longer do the DVR ability. So keep that running very lowly in the background, just for the ambience. We'll do the Sky News. Like his hair, man. Crazy. We'll do the BBC's, Al Jazeera's, Press TV's, RT's, the Krauts, the Germans, the French, the Yankee Doodle Dandies, Rupert Murdoch's Gremlin, dying Gremlin, Nigel Vadge's Dangleberries. What else have we got up here? The ABC of America, the ABC of Australia. So we've got BBC, the ABC, and the ABC Down Under. Would you like those apples? Then this is out of Singapore. Get a wee bit of Reuters. US says Israel use of weapons may have violated up to, possibly, maybe up to, I think, maybe. Disgusting. Well, it's no disgusting, it's very predictable, the language they use. It isn't by accident. Even check out what CNN said. US says Israel may have. Oh, by the way, get your cameras out tonight, man. You might be getting the Northern Lights again tonight in the UK. It's beautiful here just now in Glasgow, right? But it's meant to be raining after Rangers pump Celtic. Hurry up, man. In the meantime, I can make myself a cup of tea. That's what I need to do. Cup of tea and a vape. First thing in the morning. Can we whack it?
Hello, a very good morning. It's 9 o'clock. Coming up on today's show, Israel orders further evacuations from Rafah. We'll be live in Jerusalem.
Also ahead, a dazzling display of the Northern Lights over the UK. We'll tell you why they were so strong.
And in sport, it could be a decisive day for the Scottish Premiership title and relegation.
No fucking surrender.
Israel's
Look, they went live, they Parkhead. Look, they went live, that's Parkhead. Fucking live from Parkhead. The Astragus McCann's legacy. Yes, the breeze blocks are crumbling.
Sky News speaks to a British doctor trapped in Gaza who says
Oh,
he has
Devon,
no
it might be able to
choice
catch it
carry
tonight,
on,
buddy.
given the
I think
scale
tonight you're meant to
of
be the
casualties.
same solar storm
intensity
shit's
of the
happening.
feeling that I have because of the tragedies
They'll
that
tell
I'm
you
seeing,
later,
because of the
they'll tell you
suffering
in
I'm
this.
seeing. I just feel like it cannot stop. I have to keep going.
He looks like one of those mad YouTube
Tired,
fucking
hungry
Allah
and
Akbar
scared,
nutballs,
Sky
didn't he?
News witnesses the
Can't even remember
evacuation
his
of
name.
civilians from northeast Ukraine
Ali Darwar's
after
pal or
Russia
something.
launches a surprise attack.
We're at war.
Competition
Surprise!
in
We're attacking you!
controversy. Britain prepares to host its
It's
grand
brilliant,
final.
isn't it? Surprise attack, as if that makes it
Spectacular
worse than,
sight across the
oh, we
blue
told them we
skies
were
and
going to blow
rare
their heads
display of
off.
the Northern
Oh,
Lights
ain't
as
that
Earth
sweet.
hit by a solar storm.
Oh.
And in sport, James Anderson, arguably
I felt it, man. I honestly felt it. I'm not even joking. I had to go and pay fucking £8 for baby sun lotion because I was cooking. And I was like, there's no way you're getting me out the sun, man. This is the end. This is our summer.
Show. And we start with developing news, and Israel has called on residents from more areas of eastern Rafah in southern Gaza to evacuate.
This is what you call not a
On
surprise
Monday,
attack.
Israel's military ordered more than 100,000 people to flee, indicating that they're pursuing their offensive in Rafah. Well, Israel's defence forces have issued this map in the last hour, and it tells residents in the eastern part of Rafah to evacuate towards the expanded humanitarian area in Al-Mawasi. Well, let's cross live to Jerusalem and speak to our correspondent there, John Sparks.
Do you know how they expanded the humanitarian area? Do you know how they expanded the humanitarian area? They blew more shit up, man. See that pile of rubble? That's the new humanitarian area.
Two evacuation orders that have been issued by the Israelis this morning. The first in southern Gaza, blocks close to the center of the city of Rafah, in the southern section of the territory. They have been, the residents there have been ordered to evacuate as part of a military operation that began earlier in the week. Those people have been told to go to a place called Al-Mawasi, a series of sand dunes to the north of Rafah. The international aid agencies have been very critical of that. The Israelis have called it an extended humanitarian area. The aid agencies say there are no facilities.
They've blew shit up. I mean, see that bit we've just blew up? That's the humanitarian area. Go there.
Escalation of the military operation taking place in southern Gaza.
Fucking believable, man.
Because there are so many.
See, because this, the age of the internet webs and how accessible it is to everybody. The internet, the interwebs now steers the narrative. The algos are powerful. That's why everybody's having a go with algorithms, because they're scared that fucking TikTok in China are not under the thumb that YouTube is and all that, you know.
Highly significant. Second evacuation order. That's for multiple neighborhoods in northern Gaza, just above Gaza City. A evacuation order is being distributed by the Israelis. It says, you are in a dangerous combat zone. Hamas is trying to rebuild its capabilities in the region. This order has been issued one day after 4 Israeli troops were killed just north of Gaza City in an alleyway. And that area had been cleared by the Israelis months ago, but I think it goes to show the limitations of the Israeli military campaign in that section of the Strip. That all comes after a report from the US State Department that was issued last night, which I think tells you something. But the report said that it found it was reasonable to assess that American weapons supplied to the Israelis have been used in a way that is inconsistent with human rights law, international human rights law. That is a powerful general conclusion, but the report then went on to say that there was no hard proof, no concrete evidence that American weapons had been used that way in connection with a specific incident. So somewhat contradictory statements, somewhat inconsistent. I think that is
somewhat ambiguous, somewhat saying a lot of shit, which means sweet Fanny Adams.
Underwrites the war, supplies the weapons that Israel depends on, but is also increasingly uncomfortable about the way that the war the Israelis are carrying out their military operations in Gaza.
And meanwhile, John, you've been speaking to a doctor on the ground in Rafah, haven't you? Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is an extraordinary story. A British doctor, a surgeon from London, one of 3 British doctors who went to do a placement in the European hospital in southern Gaza. It's in the southeastern section of the Strip. They entered the Gaza Strip on the 29th of April. Of course, a few days later, the Israelis began their military operation down there. His name is Mohammed Tahir, Dr. Mohammed Tahir. He's never worked in a war zone before. He told us that. He was open about that. And now he cannot leave. He cannot get out. So he really finds himself, along with the other British doctors, they really find themselves in the eye of a huge military operation. What is it? Really a storm. And he's very open about it.
£9
So have a
for
watch.
baby fucking suntan, man.
This is a dangerous
still
place
got
to be a
them.
doctor.
Yay!
The European hospital is the only facility still functioning east of Rafah, with an Israeli military operation perilously close to its doors. A few days earlier, three
I've
British
got my pint of
medics
vodka,
began
man.
a
If you want to
placement
play it
here
along at home at the
managed to
dead
speak
baby
to
and
one,
body drinking
an
game,
orthopedic
every time you see a
surgeon
dead
called
baby or
Mohammed
body,
Tahir. Tell me a bit about
you
what
take
the
a drink.
last couple of days have been like.
I'll let you off with nearly dead, because
In the
that's
last
kind of the
few
same
days
idea
of
in
the
it. It just shows you
intensifying of
someone
the
on the
bombing in
brink of
Rafah.
dying, man.
We are getting
And see if we can get
just mainly
smashed
blast
together
injuries
on a
here.
Saturday
People
morning just by
literally,
playing a dead
their
baby
limbs
and
their
body
bodies
drinking
got
game. Oh,
destroyed.
drink! That counts. Shit the
When
neaty
did you
blur
arrive?
out counts.
I'll be honest with you. I mean, right now.
But this is a
night
slow
day,
start.
day
This
of
is
the
a
week,
slow burn into it. Sky News.
It has all evaporated.
Know
So I've
that
lost
much.
track of
Wait till we get into. Ooh. Illuminati. That's strange. You know, I'm no joking. See, that half an hour ago, my whole shit crapped
I'll
out,
be honest with you.
which has never happened before.
Before coming here, I was warned by several friends, do not
This is live.
time. I was anxious. I was a little bit
This is
scared
when my machine
to come.
fucking crapped out
But then
watching
I
this
thought
stuff.
to myself, if
Because
not
I
me,
thought it was
then who?
I thought it was their
Dr. Tahir hasn't
Their
worked
side.
in a war zone before.
Oh, look at this,
It's
man.
his first time. We
Fucking
see
hell,
him
man.
here
Never be the
after
same
he
again.
amputated the legs of a husband and his wife, but he couldn't save them.
I hope you are enjoying your cornflakes. Have some
Children perished
cut off
at the
legs,
scene of the
dead
blast.
babies. Does that count? Like just hearing about a dead
This
baby
is
and
the
body. I'm going to take a
reality of
drink.
his new existence. He's treated
It's all
150
for him day after all.
patients in the past 10 days.
That's my whiskey and that's my vodka.
I think it was either airstrike in which parents were killed. There were two small children, one of whom we tried to resuscitate, but he was covered in burns from head to toe. And we called him.
All
He
right,
died.
come on,
And
man.
his
Like,
sister by the
seriously.
side,
Like, I know what they're doing. I know why they're doing it, but I do not need to subject myself to that. Now, see people who bombard themselves to news via the internet or however, and these wee snippets and these stories constantly, it ain't good. It isn't good. That's why every cunt's off their tits right now. I mean, everybody's off their fucking tits. Oh, and it's fight season as well, man, isn't it? Fucking sun's popped its heat out. Fight season.
and sleeping on floors, in corridors, on stairs even, with makeshift tents inside, tents outside too. There are a lot of families here looking for shelter because they know outside of the perimeter of this hospital, they can be killed.
The Israelis say that their operation in southern Gaza is limited, it's precise, it's a counter-terrorism operation.
So going into Rafah was
What
Biden's
I see
red
on the
line.
floor,
They've went into
in real
Rafah
in
in
real
every
life is
way
very
apart from
different to
boots
that.
on the ground,
The
which
Rafah
apparently is
crossing,
now
which is the
happened.
main humanitarian corridor in and out of Gaza, is shut. It's closed, which means that you can't leave. Not at the moment, anyway. I'm wondering how you feel about that.
Oh, great. It's nice to be stuck in a coffin. A big open air coffin.
I feel for my family, not for myself. I know that they are terrified. I know that my friends and family are really concerned for my well-being, and I think it hurts them more than it hurts me. But the the intensity of the feeling that I have because of the tragedies that I'm seeing, because of the suffering I'm seeing, I just feel like it cannot stop. I have to keep going and going and going and going. There is no time to rest.
It's a calling and a
Alright,
commitment,
BookTube's another.
and it will be tested. John Sparks, Sky News in Jerusalem.
To Ukraine now, where efforts to evacuate thousands of civilians from a border town in Kharkiv are still underway this morning. Vovchansk is the latest target of Russia's fiercest and perhaps most surprise attack since the war broke out more than 2 years ago.
Surprise!
The
But it
region
was
has changed hands a number of times
That's
during the
hilarious.
course of the
Surprise
war.
attack.
By early September of 2022, 6 months into Russia's invasion, Russia controlled large parts of the region. Later that month, a rapid Ukrainian counteroffensive put Kyiv's forces back in control.
Kyiv's.
Since then,
Chicken
the front line
Kyiv.
has been largely static,
I want the chicken
but now
Kyiv,
Moscow
please.
is back on the offensive. Ukrainian officials say at least 2 civilians were killed as Vovchansk came under attack. Well, our security and defence editor Deborah Haynes has been to Vovchansk and has this report.
The rescuers came to evacuate her neighbours, but they've already fled. Valentina says she doesn't want to go. He tells her it's just not safe. She changes her mind, but needs
After
to
a
be
big
quick.
bang. I see that big
Every
bomb going
moment
up.
on the
Alright,
ground in
I'm
the
in.
town of Vovchansk is high risk. Russian forces launched a surprise attack from across their border overnight, and all residents have been advised to leave. She says things are awful and just became a lot worse. Time to gather a few belongings and secure her home. The volunteer goes out of his way to lock up. This town went through Russia's initial full-scale invasion in 2022. It then endured the Russian occupation. It was liberated when Ukrainian forces pushed the Russians back, and now it's under terror once more, Russian attacks and people being told to evacuate. All roads out of Vovchansk are coming under artillery and missile fire. The trees bear the scars, as does the skyline, a flashback to when Russian troops last invaded northeastern Ukraine. Earlier, we visited a nearby village where evacuees are initially taken before they're bused to somewhere safer. Hundreds have fled Vovchansk and the surrounding area since the morning, mainly the elderly. All look tired and terrified.
At night, warplanes were dropping bombs. There were so many.
That
it
dude on
seemed
the
like
left
the
looks like
heavens
one
were
of the
exploding.
presenters.
It was so
I'm trying to
scary,
think
so
who.
loud.
He really does.
How are you feeling?
We were living under occupation. We have lived through a lot of things. Both of us were tortured and interrogated by the Russians.
We don't want to go back there again.
Once everyone's on board,
Really?
the coach sets off. But soon, yet more evacuees arrive.
Fucking Rangers
Each
top
one
still
with
wasn't it,
stories
right?
of a new crisis that's once again tearing families apart.
So I think like, there's 5 people already voted in the vote, right? And it's self-evident that without murdering everybody, there's going to be perpetual war in that area of the world unless something fucking changes. So either let Israel fucking genocide these people
Ukraine's
or do something about
says
it.
he's sending in
There's like
reinforcements
2
to this
options here.
reopened front
Or
line and
is
insists the
it one
Russians
big
are
racket?
being repelled. But until and unless
That's what I think.
security is restored, many more civilians will be wrenched from their homes. Deborah Haynes, Sky News, Vovchansk, northeastern Ukraine.
Now, were you lucky enough to catch the rare appearance of the Northern Lights across the UK skies last night?
Happening again tonight, folks.
I wasn't, and I've been moaning about it all morning. So
Me
Molly,
too.
luckily, is here with us, who has got some amazing
Oh
pictures.
my God.
We both missed. I think
Did
you
the
missed it
solar
as
storm
well.
hit her
Apparently you
here?
do have another chance tonight, so there's still hope. May we stay up? Maybe. I don't know. Let's see.
It's a tricky one.
But at least people
Stay up, no fucking chance, man. I can't stay up after 9 o'clock at the moment.
An incredible show. We start
I'm
here
up at half 5,
North
6
Yorkshire and
bells.
Skipton. It almost
At the moment,
kind of
fuck knows why.
bright
Well, I don't know why.
colours,
I'm
doesn't
in my
it,
bed.
real?
I'm
Pink and green
fucking knackering
beaming,
myself.
across the sky, and then take yourselves hundreds of miles down south to Cornwall. And that's where we saw the sky again, absolutely stunning.
That
across the
isn't
bay.
what you would
Doesn't
see
it,
with
really?
your
It's
eye.
really quite
Listen.
insane. I have to say, I've been asking lots of people to send in pictures this morning, and I'm utterly jealous that I didn't catch it. But
Right,
there we
that's
are.
where a photographic
Beautiful
lens,
scenes.
you don't see
And
that with your
Anna Watson,
eyes.
Even if we didn't see it ourselves,
You get a
she
wee
did,
glare,
fellow presenter
but
of
your
yours,
camera
Anna,
and the
she
lens does a
sent
lot
in
more
some
justice.
pictures herself as well, saying it was a once in a lifetime
that's hers.
experience. Wow, so pink, just so gorgeous. So yeah, a rare moment. It really brought people together, it seems. People posting and flooding their socials and Instagram and Twitter this morning. Very lucky people, just not us. There is another chance for people tonight. They expect the skies to be pretty clear. So there's time, if you didn't catch it last night, stay up late tonight and you might be lucky again.
Yeah, and I think Kirsty was saying it may not be quite
English-centric
as good, but there might be an
yatchies,
opportunity.
man.
So let's
Scotland's
find out
fucked.
a little bit more
You
from
get
Kirsty herself.
thunder and
Joins me
lightning
now,
at
our
3 o'clock.
meteorologist, of course.
After Rangers
Hi there,
pump
Kirsty.
Celtic.
So, extraordinary pictures, really magical. But explain to us why we're seeing them across the country and as far south as Cornwall like that.
It's been amazing. I mean, I've been up quite late last night. I was trying to get pictures as well.
Scottish.
My neighbours are all taking pictures.
Told you we rule the
we
world.
managed to see the lights right across the UK and across other parts of the world as well, as far south as northern Italy, even into parts of Florida. People reporting seeing the northern lights last night. So why was it so strong? Because normally we don't see it so far south.
Solar
and the reason
storm.
is because we had a very rare G5 geomagnetic storm. Now, the solar storms are classified on a scale. G5 is the highest, and that's when we get this stream of charged particles coming out from the sun. There's a cluster of sunspots on the sun, and this cluster is actually 17 times the diameter of the Earth, so it's very big. And that's
If you were a religious simpleton back in the day, you would have thought that was God speaking to you or something, and you might have wrote a book claiming it was the word of God, which morons to this day still bounce about believing.
That's when we get to see the charged particles interacting with the gases in our atmosphere.
But now we actually have the brains of big boys and not morons who think the Bible is the word of God.
Oh, I'm hoping that's not the
solar
geomagnetic
storm
storm causing an interference.
Exactly, she's been hot.
Kirsty,
Exactly.
can you again? We just lost your sound just briefly.
She's been hot with the storm live.
I am still here. I was just telling you the different colours are due to the different gases. So oxygen can give the colours green in the lower atmosphere, red higher
Big
up,
steam
nitrogen
engine
gives
going
the
by.
blues and the purples. So it all depends on the different colours as to whether or not what colours we
getting
can
trolled
see.
by a steam
It's
engine.
quite hard to see with the naked eye. I have to say, a lot of the pictures look much better because they're taken with long exposure on cameras. With the naked eye, you're not always so lucky to see the colours, and that might be the case tonight. You might just see just very faint, wispy white colours, but if you take a picture with your phone, you could be amazed at the colours that are revealed.
See?
So it's definitely worth having a look. And if you are wanting to see the northern lights, then you've got
So
to
make
look
sure you
to the
hit off
north.
a few
It gives it away.
pictures,
You need a
'cause that
really
will
good
show
view of the
more.
horizon, and you want the skies
It's
to be
like-
dark, so away from the lights
It's like
of
the
city and the
sunglasses
town.
that I
We get up a
can't quite
mountain
put my
in the middle of the
hands on right
night,
now.
but you want
Well,
basically
they're
dark
there.
skies. And for many of us, actually, the forecast
These
is
are
good for
great
that.
in the
It's
sun, right?
mild, and
But
the
they're
skies largely
solarised,
clear.
they're
There is a
polarised,
chance,
I can't
if you
even
missed it
remember.
last night, and I know many people are devastated.
In the day,
There's
something
a
get some
chance
filter
you can
on
see
them or
it tonight,
something,
but
so
I can't promise anything. But of course, if you do
strange,
see
right? See when I'm
share
looking at my
the picture
phone
with
with
us.
the glasses on,
Indeed, and I'm
it
gonna
works
try and find a
fine when
mountain
it's
in
that way.
southwest
See when it
London.
turns
Thanks for that
sideways, can I see it?
challenge, Kirsty. In the meantime, though, it's going to
Can't
be very nice
figure
weather
out why.
today, isn't it? Or certainly quite hot.
Right. Right, we'll come back to you. We're now on to the weather. Let's go, the guy with the
The
phone
whole
here.
raft of other problems actually of being a musician.
Oh, that's...
We've got 5.
Israel orders the evacuation of...
Right, you ready, folks? In the room. Wow, man, that's loud.
Live from London, this is BBC News. Israel orders the evacuation of more areas of Rafah in Gaza, where over 1 million Palestinians are sheltering. This is the live scene in Mawasi, where they have been told to go. It comes as Washington says Israel may have used American-supplied weapons in breach of international humanitarian law.
Sky
in
News
Gaza.
left that
Hundreds of people are fleeing
if I'm
continued
not
clashes
mistaken.
in Ukraine's Kharkiv region, a day after Russia sent troops across the border.
I love you all!
A contestant under investigation and
It's
protests on the
Camperling
streets.
Christmas,
Will
man.
politics overshadow tonight's Eurovision Song Contest final? And the most powerful solar storm in 21 years.
A presenter on the radio this morning. Oh, sorry, not on the radio. On an app this morning. The Eurovision's the Gay Olympics.
Hello, I'm Sarah Campbell. Let's start in the Middle East. Israel's military has ordered more residents in parts of eastern Rafah to evacuate the crowded city in Gaza. It's told them to go here. This is Muwazi, the scene live at the location, which has been labelled an expanded humanitarian area by the Israel Defense Forces. Now, in a separate evacuation order on Monday, thousands were told to leave Rafah ahead of what Israel called a limited
it's a step up for a pile of rubble.
There's been fighting in parts since. Now, these developments have happened.
See that area over there where there's no homes, water, toilets, food,
Israel's use
shops,
of American-supplied weapons
Go there.
in the Gaza war, saying it's
you've cut the
reasonable
aid
to
off.
assess they
Just
have
go
been
there and
used
die
in breach
quietly,
of
please.
international humanitarian law in some
Well, we bomb
instances.
the shit out of whatever
Well, let's
was
cross
left
over to Rafah and speak to Sam Rose, Director of Planning at the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA. Sam, thank you so much for joining us here on the programme. Can we talk about those evacuation orders? First of all, people being asked, many thousands of people now on the move to different areas in Gaza. How is that affecting the ability to provide humanitarian aid on the ground?
Thank you for having me on. I mean, firstly, it's having devastating impacts on the civilian population of Gaza, most of whom have already been displaced multiple times. The first evacuation orders issued on Monday covered about 100,000 people. They've now been expanded in what we were initially told was a limited scope evacuation in terms of hundreds of thousands set up by my agent. And if I may,
on the move,
multiple absolutely critical. The goods have been stuck at the border for several days now.
It looks like it's going to happen over the weekend when most of the world are busy doing other things.
Correspondent based in Jerusalem, just to find out the.
No, again, I don't want to have a. Well, I do, but I don't. But I do have a bee in my bonnet about organised religion, full stop, right? And watching all this pish unfold on the TV, what do you get? You get the Allah Akbar nutbars for Yemen going like, God will guide and miss us. With God's will, we will attack. We did attack and we attacked with God's will, with God's grace, with God's luck. God done it for us, God done it for us. You're like, nah, well, right, fucking God's so great, man. Like, fucking throw a fucking stone up the air and that will take them out, right? God will go and blow it towards the ship or whatever. And then you seen fucking nut job, the fucking, I think it was the same day or the day after or something. I think it might even been yesterday. And with God's will, we will prevail or something along those lines. Like, I'm paraphrasing a wee bit, right? But it was along those lines. Definitely took the word God into it. His God. Lucifer!
Latest about those evacuation orders that you heard Sam Rose there
Lucifer's
talking about. Now let's move to Ukraine, because Russian forces have launched a surprise new ground offensive.
How can you launch a surprise attack on some cunt you're at war with? Did they all roll in fucking clown cars or something, man? In fact, did they have like a big wooden horse and they gave it to fucking the city, and the city was like, oh, hey man, that's fucking pretty cool, man. I've always wanted a big massive fucking wooden horse. Get that fucking shit in here. And then the big wooden horse came into the city, they opened it up, and it was full of Russian commandos, soldiers. Like, I was going to... How do Russians say surprise? Washnikner! Washnikner, motherfuckers! Brrr. And kill all the Ukrainians? Sorry to be panicky, man. I just find this shit comical, man. How can you have a surprise attack when you're at war with somebody?
In Ukraine, crossing the border into the northeastern Kharkiv region. For months, fighting has been focused in the east, where Russia occupies large areas. Friday's attack may be an attempt to open a new front.
Don't tell me Ukrainians are fucking that stupid. Look over here, look over here, look over here, whack. Come on, fuck, man, you fucking learn that when you're a fucking kid, man.
Intensify pressure on Kharkiv, which is the country's second largest city. Small groups of Russian troops with armoured vehicles pushed through the front line. Right, because look, it's interesting, right? Now, I don't know how well that's coming up. I think you can get it now. You know, see, it's broken into different regions here. So that's kind of like those borders on the straight lines. They're not like the American map. So they'll be like, what's the best way to describe it? Natural borders, probably. My best guess. You know, like fucking gullies, gutters, rivers, etc., boglands. So Russia's got all the sort of regions on the southern tip from Crimea. So it now looks like they're going for this region here, Kharkiv being the main daddy in that region. And then if they continue like kinda going for these two regions here, that would mean they're like basically on the fucking doorstep of Kiev. No, that would be interesting. Say they advanced a kilometre before being pushed back. This is amid reports of sustained Russian shelling. These are pictures of volunteers helping people in settlements around Kharkiv evacuate, getting out before the fighting gets worse. Well, our defence correspondent Jonathan Beale sent this report from Kharkiv, which, a reminder, is in the northeastern Ukraine.
Right.
Well, there's no...
Now, let's go and see what they are. Oh, you fucker, I thought I paused that, my bad. But should be able to get it back. Should be able to get it back. Right, what we're looking for here, 28 minutes ago. 28 minutes ago. 28 minutes to go. 28 minutes to go. Here we go. Will it work? Oh, there's a timestamp down the bottom. Right, New Delhi, ah shit. They do it complicated. Oh, I think that is. I think I'm alright. I'm looking at the timestamp. Kingdom of Yugoslavia. I'm very confused now.
That if it comes from Russia, you cannot bring it in unless you get a special dispensation, which will only give them for another year, and they'll enact this ban until 2040. And what that basically means is none of that will come in, and the US is going to have these companies that have relied on their Russian suppliers for years and years and years, regardless of the current conflict in Ukraine. Because bear in mind, we're talking about energy, and energy, you know, I think Russia sees it this way as a human right, so it shouldn't be banned, and Russia sees it as that way. Russia hasn't said, hey, we're going to stop selling it to you, even though Russia could. And essentially, we're now in a situation where this could be a very serious problem for these companies who have got to find another source of uranium for their plants.
In recent months, Western countries have moved to expand their own capacity to enrich uranium, broaching the idea of a complete ban on Russian imports in years to come. But some experts say they would need at least a decade to set the industry onto an independent footing. So how could the US make up for the loss in supply in the meantime?
It's a really good question, and I don't think they have an answer, Nikki. If we look at the other countries that produce uranium, Russia at 24%, then we look at the European partners, the UK, France, they produce a little bit, but then then again, Nikki, we're probably seeing the same thing happen again in Europe, where the US is going to try and extract the resources that Europe needs. There are plenty of nuclear power plants in the United Kingdom, where we come from, in France, in Germany, and they need their own reserves in order to power their own power. I think they'll also try and look at Africa, but as we now know, especially they'll probably put pressure on the French to do that. But as we cover a lot on the programme, the African nations are now turning around and saying, no, we're not going to give you these cheap minerals and resources from our country. The African countries are going to want more money for those resources, probably a lot more than what they're paying in Russia, and that's going to make energy far more expensive for the average consumer in the US.
Jim Rogers, author and financial commentator, told us he doubts the U.S. has any alternative sources of uranium.
If you don't have as much uranium coming in, the price goes up, even if you get it from another source. I don't know why the U.S. is doing this, but
some truth behind it. I mean, they prolong the...
Right, I don't know. Oh, here we go. Think this looks like top of the hour news. Think I've cracked it. If I can get it to work. Just bear with me. Oh, this looks like a good dead body.
On a coup, killed the Palestinian Authority.
They were also elected.
After rockets.
For the show, our continued condolences to those bereaved by... See you Monday.
Should be the top of the news.
At least 10 people have been killed and many more wounded as the IDF strikes Rafah in southern Gaza. South Africa calls for more measures from the ICJ to restrict the IDF's offensive in Rafah. That's as another country, Libya, lends its support to the genocide case against Israel. Also ahead.
Libya's in the mix now as well again.
You are shredding the UN Charter with your own hands.
Israel's representative shreds the UN Charter in a theatrical protest to the general.
What is it about these fucking dudes in the fucking United Nations? Seriously? If it's no nut job with his fucking cartoon bomb, it's this dude with a mini shredder. Do you know what would have been fucking comedy gold if you got his tie stuck in it or something like that? Where's my bagel over here? Is it because they think the rest of the world is that fucking stupid that you need props? This is a bomb! This is a thither! Oh man. You won't see much of that on the Western press, I bet you.
Which overwhelmingly passed a resolution to expand Palestine's rights at the world body.
UN.
And Western countries are displeased with those who refuse to sanction Russia, trying to influence their sovereign decisions. That assessment comes from the Serbian minister in an exclusive interview with RT.
They're using or exerting a lot of pressure on Serbia in order to change those two very important political decisions regarding our province of Kosovo and regarding our not willingness to try sanctions against Russia.
Let me team down. My net nut job accent sounds like New York Jew.
International. At least 10 people are dead and many more wounded in IDF strikes on Rafah, with the city now said to be encircled by Israel's military as a long-feared ground operation ramps up. A warning, disturbing images are ahead. The northern and central parts of Gaza have also been attacked by Israeli forces. Dozens of people, including children, were killed. Mothers are now mourning their loved ones killed by IDF missiles.
Hey, you want to get smashed?
News agencies also reported the deaths
pint of vodka, played oh fuck, that's got to be it.
Well, as Israel pushes on with its offensive in Rafah, South Africa has asked the International Court of Justice to intervene with new emergency measures. Escalation has sparked fears of jeopardizing, quote, the very survival of Palestinians.
These can play along at home. It's called the Dead Baby Embodied.
The situation brought about by the Israeli assault on Rafah and the extreme risk it poses to humanitarian supplies and basic services into Gaza to the survival of the Palestinian medical system and to the very survival of Palestinians in Gaza as a group, is not only an escalation of the prevailing situation, but gives rise to new facts that are causing irreparable harm to the rights of the Palestinian people in Gaza.
Israeli Defense Forces have taken control of the Gazan side of Rafah border crossing. South Africa cites violations.
Oh man, I only half read her name. Please tell me it was
continues
Clunge.
to argue that Rafah is now effectively the last refuge in Gaza for 1.5 million Palestinians from Rafah and those displaced by Israeli action. And secondly, South Africa says by seizing control of the Rafah crossing, Israel is now in control and in direct control of all entry and exit to Gaza, and that the remaining population and medical facilities are at risk given the recent evidence of evacuation zones being treated as extermination zones. South Africa lodged its complaint, the genocide complaint against Israel in December of 2023.
Israel's up fluid, you know, it's just an excuse to get smacked in the morning. And to try and point out like how much fucking death and destruction is
which has filed a declaration of intervention in the case, accusing Israel of genocide at the International Court of Justice, saying it believes
Libya
that
to join.
acts and omissions
Bring back
by
Gaddafi!
Israel are
Bring back
genocidal
Gaddafi! He was better than
Several
that
other
Shredder
countries
man
have
in
also
fucking
intervened
nutjob
in the
as
case
well.
against Israel, including Turkey, which last week said it was also seeking to join Pretoria's case. South Africa also says despite repeated orders by the court, Israel has not changed its conduct. In fact, it has doubled down on its genocidal aims and acts, including by invading Rafah, which is a very recent case. But Israel has repeatedly said it is acting in accordance with international law in Gaza. It also says that the case is baseless and has even accused South Africa of functioning as the legal arm of Hamas.
Well, let's cross live now to journalist Akram Al-Fatari, who joins us on the phone from Rafah. Akram, what can you tell us about the situation on the ground right now? What are you seeing?
We need a new...
Well, the Israeli occupation forces have just impacted another portion of Rafah.
The side that's on the side that Israel need a new Hitler.
And the citizens alike to leave this area.
Didn't they? They
really
do.
Major main areas are asked to leave. People are now frantically trying to grab whatever they can for the sake of leaving the area that was described by the occupation as
that's
the
happening.
Aid
Can't have
zone.
TikToks and people that they don't control having the ability to maybe control the algos. It's basically controls what information people do and do not see, especially the young windy lickers, man, whose concentration span is no longer than a 30-second TikTok video. No offence, young ones, but it's true.
1/3 is already witnessing larger...
Right, now let's see what the... Oh, fuck, I fucked that up. I thought I'd paused this. But I did manage now. Please tell me they've got a timestamp, which they don't have. Right, see, this is where the BBC's better. They've got a wee timeline, man. Right, let me see if this works. Oh, is that dead? Or fuck knows, I'm taking a drink, it's Saturday. Resistance breeds freedom. Oh, fucking hell, man.
Was sentenced to life imprisonment because he
War
was
is peace.
Controversies were our history.
Oh, this is just people telling me how great Iran is, probably. Oh,
Final story for you here on Press TV. Russia has... The D-Day event will end with the release of the Johannesburg Anti-Apartheid Declaration.
Oh, I think that must be South Africa. Oh, there's the token white.
And last but not least, our final story for you here on Press TV.
Can't I remember saying that before?
Major
and meaning it.
Border offensive in Ukraine's northeastern region of Kharkiv. Move as part of Moscow's...
Quick, get a white old lady, man. Drag fucking her out, man. Make his look inclusive.
Earlier with our guests in our news review program. Here it is.
Right. I thought I was looking alright yesterday. Maybe it's the area, man. Maybe I didn't have enough sleep the night before, but I did actually. And you know what, like, yeah, they're doing good work. I'm just taking the piss. But this is the kind of leaflet I get handed. Oh man, You know what, I'm not going to, but it's got before and after pictures and shit, man. I was like, I was going to show people the before and after picture, but nah, because that's a real person. And the boys are doing great work. Street Connect offers hope and opportunity of change to people struggling with addiction, homelessness, social isolation and poor mental health. Contact us, details on our side. Street Connect. Seem like lovely gentlemen. I was just like, oh fucking hell, man, I'm actually feeling a wee bit healthy in that today, man, and I'm getting fucking handed down. I'm like, thank you very much, mate. But no, I get him, man, he was handing out, he was dishing them out to everybody, you know, you just can't tell. Unless you're a Celtic fan, then you can tell with a motherfucking smell.
We're watching Press TV's news review, where we look deeper into some of the top stories of the day. On this segment of the program, Ukraine says fierce battles are underway in the country's northeastern Kharkiv region as Russia launches a surprise ground offensive there.
Surprise! Oh, hold on, you were at war, were you? Oh, there's the midget himself.
Russia has started a new wave of offensive actions in the direction of Kharkiv region. Ukrainian infantry and artillery.
Why don't they get just an English conversation? They don't have to get a Russian sounding English speaking. I don't know.
Kiev says it's now sending in reinforcements to the area as Russia pounds it with guided aerial bombs and artillery. Ukrainian officials also say Moscow has already pushed 1 kilometer inside the Ukrainian border. Evacuation orders have been issued for civilians. Got a famous follower there on Twitter. Back in March, Russian President Vladimir Putin said that his country would expand its buffer zone
on Twitter, sorry, on TikTok.
The announcement came as Washington revealed it had supplied Kiev with long-range ATA-CMS missiles despite Moscow's objections. Russia has repeatedly warned that Western military support for Kiev.
Washington seems to be supplying all the major munitions to all the shitholes of the world right now. Funny that.
Well, joining us on this edition of the News Review, we have journalist, activist, and political analyst Mr. John Bosnich joining us from Belgrade. Also, independent researcher and author Greg Simon.
You can't be an activist and a political analyst, right? It's an oxymoron. Just like Tommy Robinson, who's already came to the conclusion Islam is dangerous, cannot be a documentarian, especially about Islam. This ain't rocket science, folks. This is people manipulating you with fancy fucking words and not calling a spade a motherfucking spade, and relying on people to be pig shit, fucking ignorant, and not actually know what the words they're saying mean, and how laughable some of them are. Right, and no doubt this guy's a lovely guy, and because he's on Press TV, no doubt I kind of know. I already know what camp he's going to be in. You know? It's no accident. Surprised they don't get Ryan Dawson on, or I've been on Press TV back in the day. That was funny.
Is joining us from Uppsala, Sweden. Gentlemen, welcome to the program. Let's start off with Mr. Bosnich. Sir, give us your take on how
I swear I thought he was going to say Mr. Blobby there.
To the recent developments on how this war is transpiring so far.
I think most of the people who've been watching this conflict from an open-minded point of view should have understood that Russia would be seeking to liberate any regions which are primarily Russian population, Russian speakers. The key cities that have not been included in the area controlled by Russia so far are Kharkov and Odessa. This is the first step. Kharkov is very easy for Russia to encircle.
Now, is this guy a useful idiot or just getting paid by Moscow to be an apologist? Do you know what I mean? Like, come on. Is he shilling for a fucking a slot on RT? Has he got a book to sell?
It's near the border, and it is the first step in this procedure. We see that Russia has taken...
John Bosnich. It sounds like a football player. So he's East European. I would argue with his name. They're no the biggest fan of NATO because we blew the shit out of quite a lot of them. Was it the mid-90s when Clinton was cool and stuff? Director, journalist, right, come on. Age, spouse, why is he, where's the wiki? Come on, man, we're lost without a fucking wiki. Aye, there we go, hold on. Look. There we go. Why does that not look like Wikipedia? Wikidata.org. Right, this isn't Wikipedia. WordPress.com. That's him there, isn't it? Journalist organiser. Right, again, journalists are meant to be, when I watched this video back, I said biased. I meant to say unbiased, right? That's why Tommy Robinson can't be a journalist. He can report on shit, right? He can be a presenter, but that mask of journalist is laughable, right? And this goes for all these independent fucking journalists, right? You can't even go out fucking pedo hunting and be independent. You're going after fucking pedos. If that makes sense. Right, so why is there, here is a Wikipedia page. I need to create it. Ground Zero, a general services company in Belgrade, Serbia, that tourist-related projects in the region. He also heads the Intermedia Centre news agency. There we go. Ding! Specialising in reporting on conflict and development in the region of the former Yugoslavia. So it's got the Yugoslavia slant, anti-NATO, pro-Russia, because this is an ex-Soviet state. Again, these are the small minuses. This is what people would call doing their due diligence and not just watching talking heads cleverly presented to you in a TV studio like Count Spunkula and Piers Morgan. A fucking giraffe. He held his own, He's in a fucking Rupert Murdoch's studio. So the Intermedia News Agency. It isn't. There we go. History. Was founded in 1993. Left the Toon agency to start a new project, and the main task, which was to provide the Russian media with the most objective and impartial news analysis of media industry. So it ain't that hard. So this is an old dude. This is a guy that works and is associated with the old Russian media inside the former Yugoslavia. Intermedia is a Russian international media news agency. And who's this RT? Press TV, sorry, framing this guy. Journalist, activist and political analyst. Some might just say he's straight up Russian fucking shell. Listen to what he's saying. It's exactly what he sounds like.
In positions around Chasiv Yar, which is the lynch.
But Press TV says the word Zionism, so they must tell you the truth.
Of the supply and command structure for Ukraine.
Honestly, man, the more
now that is.
I used to do this a lot. Wait, what was it? The fucking can't remember what I called it. Just watching newsies. I didn't do it didn't do such a broad spectrum back then, and in this kind of stop and start format. But it's definitely worthwhile, man.
Under threat, the possibility of,
even if it's just to let people know the relationship of Doha and the British royal family. You know, the Doha royal family, Qatar, Al Jazeera, own Mayfair, basically.
And also, if you
most of Mayfair.
whether you agree with Mr. Bozic in Belgrade or not.
In the morning, DJ.
It's common sense.
Well, it's meant to be happening again tonight. But the tips and tricks are, look for a wee haze and then take lots of pictures, because your camera does it more justice than your eyeballs. So all the beautiful pictures you're seeing just now isn't what people seen with their eyes. They're seeing a lovely wee white haze with their eyeballs. But for whatever reason that I can't explain, but there is a logical reason. Cameras pick up that different spectrum and shit, and you can see all the different colours.
What reinforcements? They're basically out of them. They're scraping and beating people off the street and throwing them in the front line. I mean,
right. Just to worth, this is worthwhile. I like doing this, man. Greg Simmons. Let's check this dude out. Professor Greg Simmons, Buckingham. Political scientist. Greg Simmons is Associate Professor Sweden. That looks like him. So that looks like that would be him. University of Buckingham. I'm assuming that's not. What do you call it? Sweden. So is that where he came from? That's definitely the dude there, innit? Russian Global Affairs. I imagine my shocks. Shock that he's popping up there. Let me just do one face check. It's definitely him, but I think he's put on a few pounds. It hits him, man. Russia in Global Affairs. Independent researcher, Sweden. Remember, Sweden shares a border with Russia. Just saying, a lot of people don't know that. So is this all his work? Author's ID, research about journals. This is a journal. I'm not sure what this is, if you get me. I don't know if this is his website, an independent thing where professors can submit pieces or something. Well, this is all his stuff. Greg Simmons, so you can get an idea of what he's talking about. Rise of front and proxy media in 21st century international relations time, taking a critical turn of realism for understanding contemporary international relations, the role and significance of geosocialism, socialisation in the 21st century, global transformations, international relations in the age of US decline, boom. Orthodoxy of knowledge and obstructive foreign policy, hard and soft power approaches to armed conflicts, the United States and Iraq and Russia and Syria. So you can see where his focus is, right? The fact he's turning up Press TV, you can see what the conclusions he kind of comes to. I'm not saying they're wrong, I'm not saying they're right. I'm saying that there's a reason this dude's on Press TV. Right, it's not by accident. Then go, open up a phone book, get one of those professors, boom, we'll get him on and get an independent view. It's like, oh, look, this professor, he's on board with your editorial stance, get him on. That's why Count Spunkula was on fucking Rupert Murdoch's Gremlin of Talk. Think he's the ticket. Fucking projecting superstardom like that. Oh, fuck's sake, aye, mate. Right, let's see what he does. My interview, geopolitics, on Breakfast with Paul Brennan. This might make more sense to use. Is that him? Alright, so hey, this guy's ball deep and conspiratordom, man, isn't he? Look with the mask and all that jazz, right? Yeah, look, you do what you want, man. Fucking take the shit, don't take the shit. Wear the stuff, don't wear the stuff. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm saying this guy's here to curry your favour. He's an influencer. Whether you agree or don't agree, just don't think he's just out there telling the truth. My publication on the topic of international relations. You know what, by the way, he seems like a very interesting fellow. But a wee bit of China. China is winning. So it is like the doom and gloom kind of shit, right? But each to their own. And all that jazz. Let's go back and finish off what he's saying.
Playing with numbers, and these numbers are devoid of quality. They're going by
in the top of the hour,
quantity
touch on
only.
Al Jazeera.
And yes, as mentioned, I mean, Kharkiv is one city, I didn't mention Odessa is the other. Especially as the Americans are foolishly going by the political policy of not trying to lose the war before the November election. So, I mean, this just invites Russia to step things up and make sure that the Americans and the Democrats who have been playing a very
Democrats just making sure they don't lose before the election, you know, because if they lose before the election, it's just
Mr. Bozich, Russia has on numerous occasions, and we've even discussed this also on numerous occasions, that they've warned that Western military
that makes the Republican pushback. I don't really pay that much attention to the internal politics of America anymore. That's fuck all to do with me. I just watch the shit show. But it makes sense that I think I've witnessed a bit of a pushback on giving Ukraine this latest dough, and I think the pushback was coming for the Republicans, and I'm like, why? Well, I couldn't quite figure it out.
I think this goes to
now
the
it's
NATO
becoming a wee bit
mindset,
more
which
context.
is basically an organization run politically and economically from the United States, and with the advice and support of
Right, man,
London.
it's like fucking watching a fucking YouTube video, man.
Brings us to an end here on this edition of Press TV.
This is like
News
Star
Review. Stick
Wars.
around. Plenty
He
more
looks
to
like
come
an
here on
Ewok.
Press.
Wow, that's weird. I wonder who done it first, the BBC or Press TV. Oh man, you can't beat news with pop music. I always like my news with a bit of pop music, you know. Martyr, go and kill yourself. Throw your fucking nurse shrimp on the fire.
Turkish people's protests against the presence of American troops. Avarice of
64. Every Swiss woman of childbearing potential.
Comincia a pensare a tutt'altro che
Hey, hold on, I'll be top of our news soon.
As presidential elections in the US draw close.
See, if you want another drinking game, you could just watch a full hour of Press TV. It'd be called the Zionist and Genocide. You could even put the Zionist regime in there and just say Zionist and treat them as two entities, or just any time Zionist or Zionist regime gets used to take a drink. Be smashed in 5 minutes. Right, see what Al Jazeera has to take it. And then we'll do a wee bit of the... I'm pretty sure I paused them, but maybe there's been a glitch in the system. I'm sure it's not the Illuminati. Right, that's the top of the hour. Where am I? Al Jazeera. Oh, I want to buy a boat. Oh, I want to get a massage. Coincidence? I think not. I'm just worried about all this music and stuff, and then I need to click buttons and crap to unmute the music and pish. I've not even checked whether Putin's copyright has been lifted yet.
U.S. support continues. Is there anything that can stop Israel's assault on Gaza from going on indefinitely?
Let me see if
a quizzical look at U.S. politics. The bottom line.
The Israeli military orders further evacuations in eastern Rafah, where at least 30 Palestinians were killed in overnight attacks. The bodies of victims of Israeli airstrikes arrive at the overburdened Al-Aqsa hospital in central Gaza. 8 children are among the dead.
Putin. Daily politics.
You're watching Al Jazeera live from our headquarters in Doha. I'm Darine Abu Gaida. Also coming up, the United States admits Israel's use of American weapons in Gaza may have broken international humanitarian law. Plus, the government of Mexico drastically reduces the number of people officially declared as missing. Families call it a political cover-up.
Unblocked. Is it that one, maybe?
Hello, we begin in Gaza, where the Israeli military has expanded its ground operation in the region's southernmost areas. On Friday, its force dropped leaflets over the eastern part of Rafah district, ordering people to leave. More than 1.7 million Palestinians have sought shelter in the city for months. And earlier on Saturday, the Israeli military issued a second evacuation order for neighborhoods east of Rafah city. It comes after reports of heavy fighting in the district. The area marked in blue is where the Israeli forces have now been stationed. And at least 30 bodies have been taken to Al-Aqsa hospital in Deir al-Balah after a night of heavy bombardment. 8 children were among the dead.
The dead body and a dead baby in body drinking
have
game.
Been killed in Israel's war on Gaza since October. Let's go to Tarek Abu
Pint of vodka
Tarek is joining
before
us from Deir
the
al-Balah. Tarek, tell us about these evacuation orders that have been issued, as well as
hot,
the latest
isn't she,
airstrikes and the aftermath.
Skinny in the cheeks, but at least she doesn't look like she's been through the mincer like American and British hosts.
Well, Darine, new military orders being passed to Palestinians who are living in
Rafah
district and in particular in the middle area and the central area
the dead baby and body drinking
area. We clearly see now
every time you see a dead baby
these
or
kinds of
body,
orders
you get a drink.
Dropping leaflets and also from voice calls that been made by Israeli officers informing residents to not remain in the area because it will be a battle zone later as the war progresses.
Magic of
military
TV.
incursion
No, this
of
isn't
Rafah
TV, but I'm just going to say that's the magic of TV.
That
It might be
reflects
water,
the intention
it might be
of
vodka.
the Israeli military to expand their fighting in Rafah.
Let's see if I'm still standing at the end of
it's
the
a
show.
very limited military incursion of the
And
city
take part.
there in order to militarily dismantle the
Take
Hamas
part in
remaining
the poll.
battalions there. But we
Can
can see
Israel
that
really
new
win this
military
war
orders also being passed to
without
people in
the
the
genocide of
north
Palestinians?
Gaza, in
I don't
Jabalia
think they
refugee
can,
camp as well,
because
do
what they're
not-
doing
no
just
longer
now
exist
is
in that
making
area. So
what they're doing
clearly
just now
Palestinians both
with
in
their
the north and
actions
the south
is
do not
recruiting
know where to go,
the
as you
next
can see that
generation
more
of
evacuation
Hamas
waves,
fighters.
have been made
So
in the
it's a
past couple of hours
self-fulfilling
to Al-Mawasi
prophecy.
area, which
By
is
trying to
already
destroy
overcrowded,
Hamas, you're securing their future
overcrowded
by
civilian
fucking
area. So
killing so many
clearly,
civilians
in
in the
light of the
process.
ongoing
It isn't an
displacement waves
that isn't
among
rocket science
Palestinians,
to figure
attacks
out.
were ongoing on the ground, as in
So,
the middle areas only
they would
more
need
than
to
20
genocide every
Palestinians
Palestinian
have
just
been
to make sure none of the
reported
fuckers
killed,
come
and the vast
back.
majority have been
It's like
probed to
the
Al-Aqsa
Japs when they're
hospital in order
fucking
to be
getting their
prepared
revenge.
later for
You need to
burial.
kill all the
Yeah,
sons.
that's it.
So
I
none
mean,
of
where you are in
even
front of Al-Aqsa hospital, that's where a number of
Need
bodies
to kill all the sons
have arrived.
or the whole family. Make sure no comes back and gets you. Same principle, same rules apply.
Yes, that's completely
Filth.
right. Now,
Brilliant
these bodies have been transferred to Al-Aqsa Hospital, as multiple houses in Al-Zawaidah, Al-Mughraqa and Al-Baraj refugee camp have been hit without any prior warning. And even it's expected that we might witness within the coming hours more attacks on Deir al-Balah in light of the ongoing intelligence efforts being made by the Israeli drones in the entire area, where UNRWA saying that more than 150,000 Palestinians have been fleeing from Rafah to the Al-Mawasi and even to Deir al-Balah, and this is absolutely terrifying, as more enormous pressure have been made on the medical sector that is completely struggling. Today I've been touring in the morgue of Al-Aqsa Hospital, and that's what I really saw there. We are now in the morgue of Al-Aqsa Hospital, which is the main central hospital in Deir al-Balah. What we can see right now here is that more bodies are lined on the ground as they did not find any place for them inside the refrigerators in this
Unicorn, get
morgue in
your
order to
vodka
be
out,
kept
play the dead
inside.
baby and body
As
drinking
today
game.
earlier, at least
Al
30
Jazeera, come on.
Palestinians have arrived to the Al-Aqsa Hospital.
I'll
as
get you
dead
smashed
bodies. We
and
can
well,
see families now
how long we did now,
remaining beside the
5?
bodies of their
I can hardly
beloved one.
stand
We
up.
can see bodies of elderly people, women, children.
Yeah,
who
you get
till
a drink
now
extra
do
for
not
old
have
people
even
did.
a proper burial. Some of them are still
Not just a normal person, an old
unidentified
person.
due to the mass scale
Oh, you need to get a
destruction and
drink
attacks
for
being
fucking
carried out by the
grieving
Israeli military.
relatives
Now, the
next to the
capacity
dead
of
body,
this
man.
morgue is
That's a
shortly
fucking
limited,
guzzle.
as it cannot take more than 10 bodies. And
That's a fucking, that's the winner chicken dinner, man.
The,
Is that a jelly shot or
Israeli
something you should be
military
getting for
campaign
that
and
shit?
the unprecedented scale of death among civilians in the
This
central
drinking game's
area.
amazing.
The hospital is struggling to keep operating in light of the deep shortage of fuel and power outages in the entire
Maybe that's
area.
what lost me all the subs, the
In your
dead baby
report,
and
we can
body
see
drinking game.
obviously the
People can't see the
distraught
joke
family
behind it.
members of those Palestinians who were killed by
gallows
Israel.
humour.
And I understand that they didn't want to speak on camera, but what did they tell you?
Well, I've been speaking to them away from the camera because they were in a very miserable condition. They have been crying endlessly as I've been talking to them, but I've managed to get some of their emotions as I was talking to them. They've been saying that they were sleeping peacefully at the night, and suddenly the entire house was completely destroyed. They were lucky that they are survived, but they have been saying that they lost a number of their family members, and this is absolutely a part of what they have been going through. The scenes, the words are completely mixed with heartbreak and with deep and inner grief. That they've been saying that we have been following the orders of the military. We have been escaping from the north to the middle area, and now we have been killed in the area that is supposed to be as a safe zone. So people, as I've been talking to them, were completely in a very deep state of sadness and grief. They are frustrated that till now they are not yet being afforded protection, as they have completely saying that we did not do anything wrong. We have been hit without any prior warning. They did not tell us to flee, and now we have lost our beloved ones. But thankfully, we come from this attack alive, but we have been left behind, and the attack has resulted in completely deep scars in our hearts.
Start
that
the
entire areas that we're living in completely have been destroyed. We left back memories, and now we are completely losing our beloved ones. As they are saying, we do not expect any end for the fighting in the foreseeable future.
Okay, Tariq, thank you so much for that update from Deir al-Balah. Well, Al-Aqsa Hospital is the only healthcare facility in Deir al-Balah, and doctors there say fuel supplies are dwindling. Hind al-Khudari reports.
A hidden crisis in the basement of Deir al-Balah's Al-Aqsa Hospital.
Al-Aqsa Hospital is supplied with 20,000 litres of fuel every 8 days. We were supposed to have received that quantity 2 days ago. We had 10,000 litres as backup, but that's been consumed over the past 2 days. We only have enough fuel for 24 hours. An hour ago we received 2,000 litres. It's not enough for half a day.
All of these tanks are empty because for more than 5 days, Abu Salim's crossing, the commercial crossing, has been closed, where no fuel entered the Gaza Strip. According to the health official, they're saying that this is the only tank that has fuel left.
And those who run the generators know shortages here translate to very real problems on the wards above.
We have intensive care. We have a nursery with 24 incubators for newly born babies. Such cases are at risk of dying at any moment if the power goes out. We also have a busy schedule of surgery.
Right, let's see what Sky News are saying.
Civilians were killed as
Ukrainian attack
came under attack. Our security and defence editor Deborah Hayes.
So you can see what I mean, man.
And has this report.
Aye, that's the region that they're taking over.
The rescuers came to evacuate her neighbours.
but they've already fled. Valentina says she doesn't want to go. He tells her it's just not safe. She changes her mind, but needs to be quick.
Oh, I get it now. They're making it out, well, they're feeding the narrative, that's a fair way of saying it. They're feeding the narrative that all the people in that region want to be under Ukraine, the EU and America, and not part of the Russian Federation, even though they're all Russian speaking.
Time to gather a few belongings.
Most vast majority. Aye, a couple of screws are going to stop an army.
Out of his way to lock up. This town went through Russia's initial full-scale invasion in 2022. It then endured the Russian occupation. It was liberated when Ukrainian forces pushed the Russians back. And now it's under terror once more. Russian attacks and people being told to evacuate. All roads
22-year-old man charged with a woman of the 66-year-old woman.
The trees bear the scars, as does the skyline, a flashback to when Russian troops last invaded northeastern Ukraine. Earlier, we visited a nearby village where evacuees are initially taken before they're bussed to somewhere safer. Hundreds have fled Vovchansk and the surrounding area since the morning. Mainly the elderly, all look tired and terrified.
At night, warplanes were dropping bombs. There were so many, it seemed like the heavens were exploding. It was so scary, so loud.
How are you feeling?
We were living under occupation. We have lived through a lot of things. Both of us were tortured and interrogated by the Russians.
We don't want to go back there again.
Unicorn was just kind of saying that
the coach sets off.
I think it was Luton Line that says Luton Line said something, and it was kind of cause
with stories of a new
I don't nail my
that's once
flag
again
to a
tearing
mast,
families apart.
No. Joining a club.
I feel relieved that my daughter is in Kharkiv, but my husband didn't want to leave. Maybe he will change his mind.
But I get you, mate. The internet's still a fucking shit hot tool. It's the social media bubbles that people can fall into.
Ukraine's
I'm just leaving the bubbles.
Sending in reinforcements to this reopened front line and insists
from
the Russians
fucking self-harming shit to think of all the craziness that goes out there on the YouTube where everybody finds each other and then
more civilians
doing shakalaka, man.
Deborah Haynes, Sky News, Vovchansk.
Oh, he's a cowboy.
Eastern Ukraine.
Well, I'm joined this morning by our military analyst.
Right, so what time are we at? 13 minutes by? We can't rewind this anymore.
What do we know about the latest on the ground in Kharkiv?
Yeah, so exactly as Deborah was saying, at 5 o'clock yesterday morning, Vovchansk was subject to a pretty intensive
personnel to the Kharkiv region.
Vovchansk is about 5 kilometres away from the border with Russia. I'll come on to why that's important. 3,000 people evacuated, which is why Deborah's report showed it's just desolate at the moment. But it's not just there that the Russians have been attacking. Literally, there are a number of settlements about 20 kilometres to the west of Vovchansk have also been attacked. Russia, now Ukraine's been warning of a potential attack by Russia in this region for several months, so it wasn't a complete surprise. But Russia's massed between 30 and 50,000.
So the surprise attack wasn't a complete surprise. Well, it wasn't really a surprise then, was it? So why he's calling it a surprise attack? Well, it sounds better than Russia's attack. And fucking outwitted us, outmaneuvered us.
You can go in. But this attack by Russia wasn't just a little minor thing. It was a coordinated attack. They were using air power, so glided bombs, using artillery shells, multi-launch rocket systems, and infantry. So it clearly was designed to probe Ukrainian defences, and they have made some advances.
A lot of what we've been talking about recently has been more around the Donbass area. This is effectively a new front in the war up in the northeast.
It's another poor woman that's fucked with her face.
It's difficult because obviously the only person who knows that is what their intention now is President Putin. One of the worries, obviously, grand strategic, is that's the route into Kyiv. And if you wanted to threaten the capital,
I never got any jabs
there's
at
no
it.
chance of that happening. Kharkiv is the big prize at the moment, but again, that will be a huge challenge. I think more tactically, what's happened is just to the north of Vovchansk is a town called Belgorod, which we've talked around several times. It's a logistics hub for military operations for Russia. And it's about 20 kilometres just the other side of the border. The range of artillery shells is just over that. And that means Ukraine can fire artillery shells into Belgorod. That's caused a lot of damage over the last few months. And President Putin has regularly said that he's going to create a buffer zone. And it looks like that's what he's trying to do. And that's what
Right, hold on. We were told it was a full-on invasion of Ukraine, constantly launched a full-on invasion, launched a full-on invasion, launched a full-on invasion, and now he's saying, well, Putin has said that he's creating a security buffer. Right, what does that mean? Well, he wants a kind of zone where the artillery can't sit there and hit fucking into Russia. That kind of makes sense from a military standpoint of view, doesn't it? Aye, but it's a full-on invasion. Tanks are trying to roll into Kiev. Putin's never, ever came out and said that. Whether that's their ultimate goal, who knows? Who fucking knows? But he certainly hasn't came out and said that. And the fear-mongering, that's all it is. It's just rhetoric for the West who are at war.
Thank you for that. I'm going to invite you
He's
to
having noticed.
multitask now, because the other story that we're keeping very much an eye on is what's happening in Gaza. 2 evacuation orders now in place for the people who remain in
about
Rafah.
the bombs being...
What's been fascinating is
What can you tell us in my soft voice? Because people are dying.
Netanyahu's made clear he's trying very hard to finish the job and to wipe out Hamas. But meanwhile, IDF's doing clearing operations across the rest of the Gaza Strip. And I'd just like to illustrate, Hamas is still continuously fighting across the Gaza Strip. They're able to preserve their forces, reconstitute, and then attack Israel at a time and place they're choosing. These militias, yesterday, at least 17 attacks were done at a place called Zaytun. It's a region of southern Gaza City. Snipers, rocket-propelled grenades and mortars were used in attacks on the Israeli defense fighters. So that suggests that Hamas has not been destroyed in the rest of Gaza. They've still got the will and still got the capacity to fight. And that just raises the question. It's a strong indication that the Israeli Defense Forces operation in Rafah probably won't destroy Hamas. So it may...
Why would they have the will to keep on fighting? Well, is it because you've probably killed lots of members of their families?
Chapter of Hamas.
All right. For now, Sean, thank you. See
Again, there's a poll.
You're watching Sky News Today. Do stay with us.
Can Israel ever really win the war without the genocide of the Palestinians?
Given the scale
They can't.
of casualties there.
So, if you want Israel to win the war, you've got to sanction genocide. Otherwise, you've got to, like, wind this shit down. Because what's happening is just creating the next generation who are going to want to kill each other. On both sides. From many more countries. Look at the way that Russian propaganda's managed to get 2 Brits to go and fight in the Russian war in Ukraine. Fucking Muppets. I mean, I can understand the guy doing it for his YouTube channel, man. I can understand that. He's doing it for the hits and clicks and all that. But now he's just getting used as a... I don't even know if he's still about. That was back in early March, end of March. Can't remember now. The ITN reported on that.
We aim to be the best and the most trusted place in news.
Oh, we need some crying babies. Oh God, man, that's made me... Oh, come on, you fucks. That's disgusting, man. Have that with your fucking cornflakes, everybody. Fuck me.
In the Gaza war, saying it's reasonable to assess they have been used in breach of international humanitarian law in some instances. Our Jerusalem correspondent Yolande Nell has more detail on what's going on in Rafah.
Okay, so these new evacuation orders are still in the eastern parts of Rafah, but they suggest that the Israeli military is expanding its offensive there. We've already been hearing that there's been artillery shelling in the center of the city, as well as in the east, Israeli airstrikes as well. And also Israeli gunships off the coast have been opening fire. One of the residents there was telling us. But already Israeli tanks have encircled an area which is to the east of Rafah, which they had told residents to evacuate from earlier in the week. So now those tanks do seem to be advancing. We have been told in recent days by the Israeli military that this is still a limited offensive that they're carrying out in Rafah against Hamas, which they see as a Hamas stronghold, this southernmost city. And they say they have killed a number of what they call terrorists. They've found terror tunnels, they say, in this area. And this does fall short, the indications are at the moment, from the full-scale ground invasion of Rafah that the US and other world powers have really been warning Israel against. But already we're seeing this crisis developing in humanitarian operations with, these severe shortages of food and clean water and fuel, which has a big effect on the hospitals, because we've had no aid coming in, certainly since Tuesday when the Rafah border crossing was captured by Israeli forces. The Kerem Shalom crossing down in the southeastern corner of the Gaza Strip, well, Israel says that's reopened, but because of the fighting that's going on nearby, the security situation means that no supplies can get into Gaza that way either.
And Yolande, these people, thousands of people on the move, and there are concerns that where they're being asked to go to, Mawasi, that there aren't the facilities there to deal with such a large influx of people, so concerns there as well.
The Israeli military calls this a humanitarian zone, but it's really not recognised internationally as being such. The Israeli military says it's been expanded in recent days, but those arriving in this coastal area, in this sort of tent city, have told us there are shortages of everything. They're not finding any supplies there. They've got nothing to feed their children. And that situation is not going to improve as long as these border crossings remain closed.
Can I just ask one more thing about this? This is all happening, obviously, as this US government report was published saying that it's reasonable to assess that arms have been used in ways inconsistent with Israel's obligations under humanitarian law. Has there been any reaction from Israel to this?
We've not had an official reaction from
Israel
Israel at
Rebel
this
News
point,
was still
but
a
Israel
bit,
has
man.
been saying consistently that it keeps to international law.
Why is Tommy no part of Rebel News anymore? Because his best pal, the Australian Tommy Robinson, that Harvey Yemeni, I think he still bounces about and does stuff,
in
doesn't he?
effect, an existential threat.
That was our Middle East correspondent, Yolande Nell. Now, a little earlier, I spoke to Sam Rose, who's Director of Planning at the UN Agency for Palestinian Refugees, UNRWA, and he is in Rafah and was telling me about the situation there on the ground.
Sorry, man, I've been traumatised enough this morning. We can date in fast speed.
Last hour. Let's go to Ukraine, because Russian forces have launched a surprise new ground offensive crossing the border into the northeastern Kharkiv region. Now, for months, fighting has been focused in the east, where Russia occupies large areas. Friday's attack may be an attempt to open up a new front and intensify pressure on Kharkiv, which is the country's second largest city. Small groups of Russian troops with armoured vehicles pushed through the front line. Military sources say they advanced a kilometre before being pushed back amid reports of sustained Russian shelling. These are pictures of volunteers helping people in settlements around Kharkiv evacuate, getting out before the fighting gets worse. Well, our defence correspondent Jonathan Beale sent this report from Kharkiv, which once again is in the northeastern part of Ukraine.
Well, there's no doubt these are dangerous and difficult times for Ukraine. Remember, since the start of this year, Russia has taken about 300 square miles of Ukrainian territory. The focus of its efforts have been in the east, where it's been making slow but significant progress. But at the same time, Russia has been massing forces, tens of thousands of troops, just across the border from here, about 20 miles from the city of Kharkiv, where I'm speaking to you now from. And in the early hours of this morning, some of those troops crossed the border, followed by what we're told from Ukraine, massive air and artillery strikes, and that they now have a foothold in the Kharkiv region. President Zelensky says they have repelled those initial attacks, but there are concerns there will be another wave in the coming days. There's no doubt President Putin believes he has a window of opportunity here, not just because Ukraine is outgunned and outmanned, but also because of that delay in US military support, a delay of 6 months, and that aid is only slowly coming to the front line.
Rafah,
so these, as I say, are going to be difficult, dangerous
South
months
Africa,
for Ukraine,
and the International
and
Court of
already
Justice,
they're being stretched right
Libya to
across
join them.
this 800-mile front.
And then they touch on...
That was Jonathan Beale in Kharkiv. Well, our correspondent in Kyiv, James Waterhouse, has been telling us what this means for Ukraine.
Uranium.
And it creates for Ukraine an unwanted new northeastern axis to the front line. And this is a front line at the moment which is more than 1,000 kilometres long, and it is a front line which Ukrainian forces are struggling to contain with the delays of the arrival of American ammunition and weaponry, and with Russia continuing to make its size count and taking Ukrainian territory further south. Crucially for Kyiv, it is having to redeploy already stretched personnel to the Kharkiv region to contain this incursion, which we're told is being contained for now. There's been heavy fighting really for the past 24 hours, and I think while few think that they're able, even with a gathering of tens of thousands of Russian troops across the border, few think they're able to take cities like Kharkiv because they failed the first time around. But it appears for now to be Russia trying to form a buffer zone, trying to extend the distance between Russian territory and the fighting it is waging in Ukraine, because Ukrainian forces have been increasingly shelling targets inside Russia. So the question really, as President Zelensky admits, is, well, what is going to happen next? We're containing it for now, but is this Russia building for something more?
Yeah, James, what does it tell us about Russia's mindset at the moment in terms of their confidence to make a move such as this?
I think over the past 6 months, since October last year really, when we saw the political delays to this £50 billion military package from the US. So we're talking artillery shells, medium-range missiles, armoured vehicles, air defence systems. With the delays to that aid through politics, Russia has grown in size, where, by the way, it's mobilised more men at a faster rate than Ukraine. It has also heightened its manufacturing in terms of weaponry and armoured vehicles too. It has grown in size, it has grown in confidence, and thus its momentum has gathered speed too. So it has taken territory, notably in the eastern Donetsk region, where we've seen towns like Avdiivka fall, where we've seen more settlements be captured, and where Ukrainian forces are building new defences up to 30 kilometres further back. That's what we saw the last time we were there. So we are seeing Russia trying to take as much territory as possible. That aim has never disappeared. And given that Ukraine liberated some of that in 2022, you'd imagine that Russia will be very keen to keep hold of what it takes. The big question marks over what we're seeing in Kharkiv at the moment is whether Russian forces have the capability to make a meaningful incursion, to take whole settlements and even cities, and also keep hold of them. It's nevertheless concerning for Ukraine, and it piles the pressure on Kyiv to make this Western weaponry, now that it's arrived, to make that count for something.
Tommy Robinson's Twitter later.
James Waterhouse there. Now, at Donald Trump's criminal trial in New York, his former White House assistant, Madeleine Westerhout, kicked off this week's final day of testimony. She described a complex system to get mail, including checks from Trump Tower to the White House. Earlier this week, the adult film actress Stormy Daniels testified, clashing with Mr. Trump's defense team during a combative cross-examination. Mr. Trump's former lawyer and long-term fixer, Michael Cohen, is expected to take the stand on Monday. Our North America correspondent, Neda Tawfik, reports from New York.
This week saw testimony from one big witness, Stormy Daniels, and next week, another massive name. The star witness, Michael Cohen, Donald Trump's former lawyer, is set to take the stand as early as Monday. And it's really the moment that prosecutors have been building up to for the last 3 weeks of their case, piecing together testimony from corroborating witnesses and pieces of evidence as they went through what they allege was a conspiracy to hide information from the voting public, bringing figures like the tabloid editor of the National Enquirer, David Pecker, to outline a catch-and-kill scheme to buy negative stories and kill them before they reach the public, to someone like Stormy Daniels' lawyer, Keith Davidson, who outlined that the payment was being done ahead of the 2016 election. Then prosecutors moved into what they said was the cover-up, with testimony from Donald Trump's organization's former controller, Jeff McConney, and another accounting executive, Deborah Tarasoff, as they outlined the payments, the
Right, I'm not watching Tommy Robinson's Twitter anymore, man. I know when I go out and murder people, man, and just one post.
That they say
Fucking
all
hell, how easy it's
to the
done.
reimbursement of Michael Cohen for the so-called hush money payment. And then Stormy Daniels with her vivid, salacious testimony that was meant to corroborate her account that the alleged sexual encounter with Donald Trump did take place and that she was paid off to keep silent about it. Now, the defense all throughout tried to sow enough doubt in jurors' minds, but with Michael Cohen, he is a make or break witness for prosecutors. He has
How can they hype this piss up? He's going to get off.
The latest is that the army, the latest line coming in from Gaza. You'll remember our top story today is about those evacuation orders, ordering people from Rafah to Mawazi. That's the picture you're looking at there, which has been designated a humanitarian safe zone by the Israel army. The latest is that the army in Israel says around about 300,000 Gazans have now evacuated East Rafah. It doesn't say where they have gone to, but certainly the sense is that they are evacuating to Mawazi. I should say that if you want to keep across the BBC News live page, they have all the latest lines and updates, including interviews with Rafah residents, asking them where they're going and what the situation is. So do keep across all the latest lines from there. Now, it is, of course, the grand final of the Eurovision Song Contest tonight in Sweden, with Croatia, Israel and Switzerland among the favourites to win. Meanwhile, Joost Klein, the entrant for the Netherlands, has not performed in the second rehearsal for the grand finale. This is while an investigation into an unspecified incident continues. Klein's song, Europapa, I'm sure you know this, is considered one of the front runners at this year's contest. The contest, of course, takes place later tonight. Here's our arts correspondent, David Silito, with all the latest.
Oh, my Lord. That's your news.
I'm lucky, I've got a family, I've got people up here, but, it can be a very lonely time as well when things aren't going too well. So.
It's a tough job in a harsh environment that's getting more difficult.
I think there's a lot of farms and farmers that actually feel now that their livelihood and their living and the farm that generations have worked for are genuinely at a point where is it going to be viable for the future? We've got another generation as young as he is at the moment. Farming is all he wants to do, and the feeling that you might be that generation that loses everything, it's not a good one, really. I'll do.
Rodri's main worry, subsidies. They're 40% of his income.
Ma! Come by.
Brought in after World War II to ensure food security, the world has changed. Post-Brexit, the cash is there for farmers, But to get it, there are environmental conditions. Next year, Rodri will have to dedicate 10% of eligible land on his farm to trees.
If you had to lose some of these immediate fields here,
hop in one leg,
what would that mean for the business?
cluck like a chicken,
Obviously, you'd either have to keep less stock,
tap your nose and rub your belly, and we might give you some money
or
to
it then
survive.
means buying in a lot more winter fodder, because I wouldn't be able to produce enough
Now,
hay and silage
I'm a
over the summer
fan.
to carry me through
I
the
enjoy
winter.
watching
So then that
the
means
circus
then
of
more off-pack costs
Clarkson's farm.
and, you know,
It's
making my
enjoyable
carbon
entertainment.
footprint worse, because it means, you know, buying feeds and carrying it in. and
As
hauling it in
messaging
from
goes,
other
it's
areas.
become
But the whole point in this scheme
it's becoming clearer why it's becoming clearer that the plights that farmers are going through right now in the UK and European wide. The lobby is getting their message out there.
The Welsh Government is consulting on the plans as farmers protest against them. On the steps of Parliament, 5,500 wellies, each representing a farming job at risk. But the crisis has already begun.
Look, that was a mosque.
In the last 5
Mosque on a rainy
years,
day.
more than 13,000 farmers have left agriculture in the UK. The number is at its lowest in more than a decade. And it's not just a problem in Wales. We're in Kent, the Garden of England, to meet two very different farmers, both planning to attend a big protest in London.
My favourite one was the farmer that covered the building in shit.
Decimated in probably the last 10 years.
That's what you call
Going back further
protest,
than that
man.
now,
Have
but
some of this.
European pork coming in that's
Oops, my
heavily
finger
subsidised by
slipped.
their own governments has flooded our markets and made pig production in the UK pretty much impossible.
Jeff sells his pork in his own farm shop. He says he can't make enough money through supermarkets.
For me personally, I feel that there's an unfairness in British agriculture in that I think that government, particularly this one actually, has been bad in throwing us under the bus. The Brexit trade deals that have been done are absolutely atrocious. It's just so short-sighted. It's going to be that utter lack of food security and how we're going to feed our own nation.
What's your worst fear for the next 5, 10, 15 years in farming?
My worst fear is when I look at my friends, their children are not interested in going into farming. The next generation aren't coming into farming. The average age of a farmer in this country is already 70. There's not anyone going to come into the industry.
And what will that mean?
More reliance on substandard foreign imports.
While new trade deals, like the one with Australia and New Zealand, are Jeff's concern, a few miles down the road, fruit farmer Tim has different worries.
The family we've been farming for a long, many
New Zealand famous for its
He
sheep,
sells
isn't it?
thousands of tons of
do
strawberries to
believe-
major UK supermarkets.
How many staff are you bringing in sort of harvesting and planting season?
We'll have.
Anyway, that was
pretty
just what
much
I thought I
our
found
peak
that
about
interesting
2,000
because
staff.
I think it's because I'm hungry.
Before Brexit, foreign workers could stay at Tim's farm as long as they wanted. Now they have to leave after 6 months.
I don't need people coming for 6 months. By the time a
Northern
person comes
Lights.
from 6 months, they've just got good enough for me to make them an economically viable worker, and then
There's
they have to
4
go
o'clock,
home.
thunder
The
and
visa is only
lightning,
for 6
right
months.
over
They've basically put a
Castle
hand behind my
Grayskull,
back and told me
also
to fight
known
someone
as
with a gun.
Parkhead.
I have to. I'm inability. I just can't fight. I can't negotiate fairly because the prices of the fruit coming in from abroad is not reflective of the same cost prices we have.
Whether it's subsidies, imports, staff or costs, many farmers say they've had enough. The end of March, and at the end of their tether, the tractors roll into Westminster.
It's quite a daunting thing for us all to come up here, to be honest, but we're just doing it because
Well, Tommy Robinson's back in the farmers, isn't he? He was all over it. Back in the day, thank you. Wants to be like the guy for Blur and retire into the country and raise pigs.
If they want the taxpayers' subsidies, they've got to look after the environment.
I think they're dead right.
Once
The
he's
only problem is
raised the awareness of the dangers of Islam.
bark. Because the logic is, if we're already as Europe grubbing the Amazon to bring food into Europe, we're then going to take 10% of our own thing out of production. How is it more environmentally sound to be bringing food from Brazil on a rusty old ship, having already destroyed the Amazon jungle to do it?
British farmers are usually far more cautious about coming out onto the streets and protesting compared to their European neighbours, but the frustration, the anger, the fact that so many of them are at risk of going bust has now become too much.
Farmers believe government policy is pushing them out of business. But as well as decisions in Westminster, this is as much about where our food comes from and whether we, the public, really mind.
Welcome to globalism. That's what I'm going to get, man. I'm going to get some
comes from the UK.
lovely bacon.
A third is imported from the EU. The rest
Some
shipped
cherry
in from around the
tomatoes.
world.
I've got lovely
Whether it's
shallots in
chicken
there.
breast from Brazil or pork
Got a
chops
wee
from
ball of
Holland,
lettuce.
it's here because it
I
can
make myself
often
a
be cheaper
BLT,
than British.
motherfuckers.
Farmers don't like it, but at the end of the day, it comes down to money.
Right, sit here. Take those shoes off, please. Oh, you're getting heavy. My big boy.
With the kids back from school, it's time to start dinner in the Ranford household.
So I'm doing mashed potato.
Honestly, I'm watching that
peas
because I'm
Brussels,
fucking sitting here
with
starving.
gravy, and I'm going to do it with French fries.
Oh, man. Oh, it's a fucking, what do you call it? What did Boris Johnson call it? It's a phone box.
Children. We're adults. And
They ones look like a
it's about
closed
thoughts.
phone box, right
None
enough.
of us would be here.
No.
Inspiring short films
Letterbox,
from
not
the
a phone
BBC.
box.
Watch now on iPlayer.
Oh, I'm going to go and get myself some food, buddy. Thinking the build up to the range. I was going to go to the boozer,
BBC
but you
News,
know
the
what?
headlines.
No.
Israel orders the evacuation of more areas of Rafah in the
Oh,
Gaza Strip,
forgot
where
the
over
drinking
1 million
game.
Palestinians are
It's a cup of
sheltering.
tea.
That comes just after a government report which says Israel's use of American-supplied weapons in the war in Gaza may have breached international humanitarian
Sky News completely ignoring
Hundreds
that.
of people are fleeing
completely.
continued clashes in Ukraine's Kharkiv region a day after Russia sent troops
Unicorn, I
across the
hope
border
you're making something
seeking to
good.
break through defensive lines. This comes as President Biden gives the go-ahead for more aid for Ukraine. The most powerful solar storm in more than 2 decades hits the Earth, triggering spectacular celestial light shows in many parts of
should
the
have been
world.
since records
These storms
began.
occur
That's
when
usually the
sun
way to
emits
hype
large
things up, you
clouds
know.
of particles.
When did records begin? Last
And
week.
Prince Harry and Meghan are in Nigeria as part of the Duke's promotion of the Invictus Games. Hello, I'm Sarah Campbell. You're watching BBC News. We'll have more on those solar storms with an expert explaining how that happens, how the link between the sun and those storms happens. So that's coming up in the next 15 minutes or so. But for the moment,
I want
let's
to
talk
hear that
about
stuff, man.
Ukraine.
I'm
Russian
interested in that
forces
stuff.
have launched a surprised new ground offensive in
But it
Ukraine.
wasn't that much a
crossing the border
surprise, but it was a
into the
surprise attack.
northeastern
Not
Kharkiv
just a
region.
regular attack.
For months,
It was a
fighting
surprise
has been
attack. See when they were
focused in
shooting
the
their bullets, they're
east,
like,
where Russia
surprise,
occupies
motherfuckers!
large areas. Friday's attack
Surprise!
may be an attempt to open up a new front and intensify
That's
pressure
how you
on
know it's
Kharkiv,
different
which
from
is
a
the
regular
country's
attack.
second largest city. Small groups of Russian troops with armoured vehicles pushed through the front line. Military sources say
Shooting
they
for the air,
advanced a
shooting for the
kilometre
hip.
before being
Surprise,
pushed back with reports of
motherfuckers!
sustained Russian shelling. Earlier, I spoke to Maria Avdiva, a security analyst from Ukraine. I asked her to explain what's happening in the city and in the region.
The situation is different for the city itself and for the cities and areas around the border, because the constant shelling from the Russian side is going on for more than a day now. Russia has moved into Ukrainian territory and captured several villages, but these villages, they lie just on the border between Russia and Ukraine. So in a way, for almost 2 years, they were kind of a gray zone with very few people living in the area. but now because of the constant threat and the intensified attacks, there is evacuation from this area. So these are mostly elderly people whom Ukraine evacuates in the city of Kharkiv. Situation in Kharkiv remains more or less calm. There is, yesterday, there was the longest air raid alert from the whole period of the war for more than 12 hours. But the situation is calm. There is no panic. It didn't caught people in Kharkiv in surprise, this Russian attack, because there were numerous reports that Russia is amassing troops in Belgorod. So this was known that they will attack, and this didn't caught people in shock as it was in the beginning of the invasion, because people in Kharkiv, especially those who returned back after they evacuated, they know what to be prepared.
Right, I'm going to head off shortly, so I'm going to do a wee roundup and see if I can see what the European Union dudes are telling us to think. Should work okay. Good. Aye, it's been long enough now.
Of birds.
The DVR's working. Oh!
The southern north. W News live from Berlin. Israel orders new evacuations in both the north and the south of Gaza. Thousands of Palestinians have already fled the southern city of Rafah.
It's
as
American.
Israel prepares to
I think it's like the American Jim White
Hamas.
voice, you know? It's really not an accent, but it is an
Ukraine's President
accent.
Vladimir Zelensky says a fierce battle is underway in the Kharkiv
right,
region
reaction.
after Russia's surprise
Good
assault
buddy.
opens a new front in the war.
DJ in the morning.
And controversy hits
Damn
the
dirty.
Eurovision Song Contest in Sweden.
It's
One of the
camper than
favourites
Christmas,
is
that
banned from
anime. I
rehearsals
heard a
over
radio
an
presenter
alleged
call it the Gay
altercation,
Olympics this
casting
morning. I was
doubt on
howling.
whether he'll
Thought it
even
was quite
appear
funny.
on stage tonight.
Technically is the Gay Olympics, isn't it? it's a good way of branding it, man. This is what the Germans
I'm Marina
are telling you
Evanstein.
to
It's good
think
to
about.
have you with us. Israel has called on Palestinians to evacuate parts of Rafah in the south, as well as two
Deutsche
northern
Welle.
Gaza neighborhoods. More than
German
110,000
wave.
people
Fuck,
in
that sounds
Rafah
lovely,
have
doesn't it?
already fled the area as fighting between Israeli troops and Palestinian militants intensifies there. Heavy clashes have left crucial aid crossings inaccessible. Meanwhile, Israel's military has also deployed forces north of Gaza City, where the army says Hamas fighters have reorganized. Residents of the city of Jabalia were told to evacuate in preparation for renewed combat. Tanya Kramer is following developments for us from Jerusalem, and she joins us now for more. Good to see you, Tanya. So, are these renewed evacuation orders for civilians in Rafah a sign that Israel is indeed about to launch a major offensive in the area? And that's despite international calls not to do this.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the Israeli military still says it is a limited operation, but on Thursday, the Security Cabinet has actually green-lighted the expansion of this ground offensive. So we don't know, how far they will go right now, but we're seeing more evacuation orders now for the population there, still in eastern Rafah. But we've seen and we've talked to people in Rafah, and they're saying, many of those who are not in these specific areas, but also in other areas, they're fearing and they're very worried about, and they people who can leave. I mean, there's always those vulnerable people that cannot leave, they are leaving right now, and the numbers were given by the United Nations agencies working there on the ground, over 100,000. Others have put the number much higher of those people that are leaving. So this is eastern Rafah, and as you said, there are also evacuation orders for people, again, in northern Gaza, in Beit Lahia, which is in the northern part of Gaza City, and the town of Beit Hanun, which is in the northeast, potentially indicating that Hamas is regrouping there, although Israel has said it is there mostly under control. Now, what does it mean for the people on the ground? They have to leave in the southern parts now, to an area either going further up north to Khan Yunis, where there's mostly rubble and ruins, but also they were asked to go to Al-Mawasi, which is on the shoreline, on the coastline of Gaza. But aid agencies have said, you know, the area there is highly inadequate for so many people. It is without electricity, without, you know, running water, a sewage system. And people have been displaced now many times over and over again. And all this is, of course, happening while the bombardment is going on. And also in this evacuation area, seeing this since Tuesday, is the Rafah crossing, which has been closed since, and agencies are warning that
DW Deutsche Welle, the German Wave, and France 24 are
how much aid is actually
funded,
reaching,
authorised, allowed to be by the European Union
in the past months.
So you could argue they're the mouthpiece in English and lots of other languages for the European Union internationally.
Has there been an official
That's why you have a woman that has an accent like this.
No, we didn't see yet an official reaction to this, but it's very closely watched, because the report says that Israel's use of US weapons,
I don't know, mate. I'm two minds, man. I'm really in two minds.
With international law, but that it lacks, you know, the evidence in specific cases. Now, human rights groups would argue that they have documented cases where the force being used is disproportionate, where they're more, you know, in the light of so many civilian casualties. Now, Israel has rejected those accusations all along. It says it does enough to protect civilians, but this comes, of course, amid a deepening rift between the US administration and Israel about the shipment of arms. And we have to see, you know, how
as soon as I came home, fed
operation
myself,
now
just went
comes
and go
into
to
play
sleep.
in this, because the US has always said they don't. This is a red line for them if Israel goes further deeper into Rafah. But you know, what will they do, and what will other countries do if Israel is expanding its ground?
That's what even a boy was saying yesterday to me. He was like, I might not
That was
come
DW's
tomorrow,
Tanya
man.
Kramer reporting from Jerusalem. Tanya, thank you
Might
so
get
much.
a wee bit tasty.
Let's get a check now of some of the other stories making headlines around the world. The UN says flash floods in northern Afghanistan have killed at least 200 people. Exceptionally heavy seasonal rains caused flooding in several districts of Baghlan province as well as Kabul. Officials say the death toll may rise as many people remain missing and more storms are forecast. Here in Germany, hundreds of environmental activists have tried to storm Tesla's electric vehicle factory near Berlin. They were driven back by police. The protesters oppose plans to expand the factory and
we want Chinese electric cars, not American ones, you fucks.
At the site by up to 1 million vehicles a year.
Remember, that's just after China's
in other news, the
visit
United
to
States
France.
says it's working
China are
around
the world leaders in
to
electronic
Ukraine
cars.
what it needs to defend itself against intensified Russian attacks. The U.S. announced a new $400 million package of military aid for Kiev. The move comes after Moscow's forces launched a massive ground attack on the Ukrainian border region of Kharkiv on Friday.
Burning houses and piles of debris. This residential area of Ukraine's Kharkiv region was among the latest targets of Russian airstrikes.
I think we're all right, man, because we rule the world, so you never shit on your own doorstep, man. You orchestrate all these wars away from your own doorstep, you know what I mean? So I think Scotland will be sweet.
My husband unblocked the door.
I'm not even joking, that's my honest opinion.
In the
That's why we have
city of
Israel.
Vovchansk,
Turn
near
that
the
fucking
border with
place into a
Russia,
shithole,
Ukrainian
man.
officials said Russian forces
Turn it
tried
into
to
a
break through
perpetual
their
fucking
defense line.
kill, what do they call it, a kill zone? Make Israel into a perpetual kill zone for Muslims and Jews. Who would they want that?
Everything was destroyed. Everything was in ruins. All night long there was smoke all around, a haze. You can't recognize the Vovchansk that used to be there.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said the military had anticipated the attack and a fierce
Somebody told
battle
me he was
is
a comedian. I knew he done Strictly Dancing or some shit, ballroom dancing with the
Russia has
stars.
launched a new wave of counter-offensives
And he was on
in this
TV
area.
and stuff, but I didn't know he started off his
Ukraine
gig
met
as a
them there
comedian.
with our troops, brigades and
One
artillery.
wee gremlin looking motherfucker, isn't he, man? I'm no expert, but he certainly no look a
It's
fucking good looking
important
dude.
that they can increase and pull up more forces in this direction. But our military, our command,
And he's
knew
getting
about
gremlin
this
hook
and
nose and
calculated
everything.
their forces to meet the enemy with fire. Now there is a fierce battle.
Russia denies targeting civilians and calls its assault legitimate strikes on Ukraine's military, energy and transport infrastructure. But these images of an area near Kharkiv, now in ruins, tell a different story.
He also has a body double. No doubt, man.
A short time ago, I asked DW's Nick Connolly in Kiev for more on the fighting.
Well, Mariana, 24 hours into this Russian advance near Kharkiv, and we are still scratching our heads trying to work out what exactly is going on. We've had reports that they have basically gone into border villages directly north of Kharkiv, that's about 35 kilometers north of Ukraine's second city, and northeast of Kharkiv near Vovchansk, about 65 kilometers northeast of Kharkiv. So these are two
I'll try no miss it popping our news for RT.
Yesterday evening we had
See if they're
regional
touching
Ukrainian
on it yet.
authorities saying that the Russians basically weren't controlling any villages. Now that doesn't seem to be quite the case. International kind of observers, analysts trying to look for geolocated footage, satellite imagery to try and confirm those reports are still struggling. But certainly we've seen lots of images on social media of fighting, of fires, of the kind of distant. You can see in the distance, fighting going on, altercations, and there is a sense that the Russians really did come in big over this big scale and are trying to really make it difficult for the Ukrainian side. We do believe though that these villages on the border were largely in the so-called grey zone, so they hadn't really been fully controlled by the Ukrainian side. They were basically abandoned, but we're still really struggling to get to the bottom of this.
It was Nick Connolly in Kiev. Well, anticipation is building ahead of
Can you
Saturday's
escape this piss,
Eurovision.
Oh, my phone's telling me something interesting's happening.
Debate. There was since Thursday by people the proceedings here. There have been major protests in the city since Thursday by people.
Man charged with murdering 66-year-old woman, stabbed to death in Edgware, North
and really,
London.
since Thursday, the geopolitics was spilled
Tommy
into the
Robinson will be all
program
over
itself.
this.
There
Jalel
was a very
Di
powerful
Bella?
sense
Di Bella?
after the
Di
semi-final on
Bella?
Thursday at
Some
the press
Spanish
conference
or
that
something? Latin?
several of the artists
Jalala?
were frustrated with the
Ah,
fact
fuck
that
knows. Accused of killing the woman.
the debate
Thursday.
around Israel's inclusion
Woman
was
died
overshadowing
of
their own
injuries.
contribution.
Officers were called to
And they
reports.
sort of made that
Air ambulance.
felt at
Women
the
died at the
press
scene.
conference.
Family
Some
have
of them
been
have since
informed.
become very explicit about it.
The
They've said that
suspect
it's been a cloud hanging over the
charged
song
with
contest.
murder and possession
And now
of
we've
an
had this
offensive weapon.
extraordinary development with temporary, perhaps final exclusion of one of the artists.
Doesn't it tell you why she was
Yeah,
stabbed?
Philip,
or
is there anything more
hate
you can
that,
tell
you
us
know?
about this incident, as it's been called, with the Dutch singer Jos Klein?
So Jos Klein was
Right, I'm going to try and get the RT top at our news, but let's see if it's any. Well, that's pretty cool. Why there's tunnels of crossbows? That pack's happening now.
Referral. Their foundation to educate.
Ministry of
Old
Defence
Prince
open
Harry
about
Sky
the
News
specially had-
stays away for that.
Spectacular northern lights, which could
Right, we've seen that.
all entire
Government stage again and again, and this has become normalised, and that has
Right.
to change.
To do
If
that,
you notice
over
the
40
direction this
steps
is
for
going on,
tech
it's
firms have been
controlling the algos, controlling the algos. If you control the algos, you control the flow of information. If you put in boobs, it determines what boobs you see, etc., etc. So this is a grab for power. I say the old stream media, but I'm just talking about as governments that using the governments and intelligence agencies using their old tools aren't as effective as they used to be, and the new tools of the interweb, any cunt can get a hold of them, and that's why they're after TikTok and other social medias, because if you can steer the algos, the consciousness, you can steer people's consciousness. It's really that simple. I remember the days of Google Wild West algos when it was organic algos, you know, it gave you everything and everything unfiltered. It was just that's how Google became so fucking popular, because their algorithms were so fucking spot on. You got exactly what you wanted. If you put in Kips clips, you got Kips clips. No fucking university degrees and all that. It doesn't even say Kips clips in it. You know, it's these wee small fucking things, minuses that I've noticed changed over the years. The Yankee Doodle Dandies are going balls out and just want to ban TikTok because their algorithms are steering the consciousness of all the young windy lickers who don't have a fucking attention span longer than fucking 2 seconds. Right, top of our news. Like me, by the way.
Safer.
Killed and many more wounded as the IDF strikes Rafah in southern Gaza. South Africa calls for more measures from the ICJ to restrict the IDF's offensive in Rafah. That's as another country, Libya, lends its support to the genocide case against Israel. Also in southern Gaza.
Right. Heroes of Donbass, that's a documentary, not the top of our news. So they ain't touching on Ukraine at all.
At least 10 people have been killed and many more
if they were going to touch on
wounded
Ukraine,
as
it'd
the
be
IDF
top of
strikes
hour.
Rafah in southern
Alright,
Gaza.
faceless. We need to go back to
South
reserve.
Africa calls for more measures from the ICJ to restrict the IDF's offensive in Rafah.
Chronological
That's as another
feeds
country,
again.
Libya,
I know what you mean, man. I know what you mean. Instead of all these algos that just serve you. I mean, I participate in TikTok.
You are shredding the UN Charter.
I participate in TikTok, right? I put content up very rarely, or I try my hardest not to get caught in the TikTok fucking scroll. Even the YouTube shorts, man. I end up crying at rich people giving away little money to poor people to make them even more richer. You know, so I try not to participate in it. But the amount of views that get farmed from me, I don't know if any of you have the same problem. TikTok runs shite on my phone. It's not a top of the range phone. But it runs shite. It does. All the other apps run fucking like that. YouTube, all the rest of them. For reasons that I can only be a conspirator about, that TikTok doesn't run as smooth. And thus, buttons don't press, sometimes do press, etc, etc. And TikTok takes up so much memory in your phone and all that shit. It farms clicks from me. I can only imagine it happens to other people. You turn on TikTok, boom, you get a fucking a video. I didn't ask for that. I wanted to upload shit. Anyway, and they're all at it. YouTube Shorts does the same as well. That's why none of those views are organic. And TikTok, I'll show you this, right? TikTok throttles your views. It's so obvious, like either throttle it about the 500-600 mark. They don't let any traction. That would just be like kind of organic people who have followed to me, but they didn't get punted out on their algos, the ones that are getting nothing. But if they decide to start putting them out in their algos, they will allow you to get 600 views, 600, 600, 600. Didn't want that one, didn't want that one, 20, 20, 20. We'll allow you to get 600. Community guidelines strike for the video that's now up under I'm no orange, I'm a carrot. The exact same video saying the exact same stuff, but I get a community guideline strike because I said Tommy Robinson's name in the title. 600, 600. For some reason, these two get allowed to get up into the 1300-1200 marks. But these aren't organic. This isn't normal. Like, you can see they're all kind of throttled. Initially, it was at about the 200 mark. This isn't organic views. This isn't views people want to watch your video. This is this is the TikTok algorithms fucking with your nut. Giving you views to incentivise you to make more content. There's a way algos can manipulate you without even knowing it, you know. You stick up a video, they go, boom, there's 30,000 fucking views. You're like, I'm a TikTok fucking star. Start making hundreds of fucking content. And then as soon as you make content they don't like, they're like, oh, well, we're not promoting that shit. What's wrong with this? Blow it up! every breeze block, bro. Blow it up! I mean, what's wrong with that tickety talk? Why are you promoting fucking Celtic Park being a fucking dump? Shit, like, see, I don't even know how to get out of the fucking, the merry-go-round of them fucking farming more views off me. Anyway, I don't know how I got onto that, but I did. So, were we having a look at the frogs? We were looking at the frogs.
Announces a new 400.
Oh no, we weren't looking at frogs, we were looking at fucking RTE and this did.
With your own hands.
Israel's representative spreads the
Makes me
UN
walk
Charter in a
that.
theatrical protest. Western countries are displeased with those who refuse to sanction Russia, trying to influence their sovereign decisions.
I was right, I wasn't just missing it. There's no touching on Ukraine at all. I'd say for obvious reasons, you know, it's an ongoing operation.
Or exerting a lot of pressure.
I'm going to wait until they win, lose, draw, or whatnot, till we come out with that shit. And that's Serbia, where China was just at, you know.
Not willingness to join sanctions against Russia.
So the old Soviet alliances inside Serbia are getting reignited.
Live in Moscow, I'm Rachel Rubel. You're watching.
Right, so I didn't miss anything. I think I checked out what they wanted to say. What's going on here? This is just a replay of stuff.
In the front door, you walk through the front door.
Fucking cowboy, man.
We end up with some of those problems, but the destination is not here. The destination is where you're at. We're throughout the country. We would do tours for sheriffs that wanted to learn where, okay, this is where the fentanyls come from. This is where the drugs are coming from. This is where
fentanyl is coming from China. They're flooding it to fucking turn us all into junkies. It's like the opium fucking wars all over again, you know what I mean? Fucking goes around, comes around. What is that I heard the other day and I liked, man? History doesn't repeat, but it fucking rhymes. I like that one, man. Right, so there's their brown people in boats. Shit going on in the Yankee Doodle Dandy land. Let's see what I know exactly the talking points. Going to be brown people in boats. Let's see what they talked about this morning. The economy. Border education. What the fuck? Oh, right, alright. This is actually quite funny. The job of these foxholes is to try and persuade people of the right side of politics argument. And obviously they've just had a doing in the local elections, but they keep talking about how bad Labour is.
I really want to talk about the decline of the Conservative Party, where it's going and how it could in some way be reconstituted.
You sure? Because I thought you were just beating up Stammer there.
No better person for the long view on this than Ed Vaizey, Lord Vaizey, who is a Conservative.
Remember this guy's a Northern Irish leprechaun?
Yes, a former minister, but we'll take a broader view. Ed, thank you for joining us this morning. Perhaps just before we get into the Conservative Party, could ask your opinion on this story.
He would have got sunburned before me yesterday.
We've had a big debate this morning, Ed. A lot of people saying it's a tax on aspiration. Some people saying, well, actually, if people can afford private school fees, they can afford the VAT. What do you think?
Silas Solomon,
well, I agree
got
with
it for me for a lodge that was shutting down.
On the fence, it's an interesting debate. I mean, the private schools are
so it's a genuine bona fide
institutions, and you
straight
get
out the lodge.
People make a choice to educate their children privately, and it is quite hard for private schools to justify the fact that they are exempt from certain taxes that private companies would otherwise.
Masons don't take in balls.
The whole charitable status around schools is complicated. Education is a charitable activity, so if Labour were to unravel that, they would. You'd be pulling at a piece of string which could
uncommon up this neck of the wood, do you know what I mean?
Policy is the simplest.
And unless you're a tune to the moon fucking lunatard, conspiratard on the internet, you know that
regard as rich.
The fucking Masonic
conspiracy schools to argue against it. But having said that, I also
99.9% of the satanic Masonic conspiracy shit's fucking online is bullshit. Because I remember getting into all the conspiratard shit and coming out everybody, oh, messenger, paedophile. I was like, fuck, what's wrong with me, man? I must be fucking ugly, man. Why did no fucking fuck me? Why did my dad fucking no abuse me, man? Fucking angry with him. Then I was like, I was speaking to my spirit guide once, like, right, Dad, why did you no fucking bugger me, man? I know all Masons are fucking paedophile baby rapists. And that, my friends, is what gave me a fucking head start over your average conspiratard online. Because one of the first conspiracies that was getting fucking peddled left, right and centre when I entered the game was all the Masonic conspiracy shit. And I had first-hand evidence. I known it was a pile of shite. Pile o' shite. My favourite thing I've got is my Bible. It's down here. That's my favourite thing I've got. And I'm not into organised religion. But anyway, let's see what these dangleberries are saying. Parents may send kids to India to beat Labour.
At the moment, it did very badly at the local elections, although some sucker for them at Tees Valley for Lord Houchin, Ben Houchin.
Right, that guy's a school-educated guy there. You can tell where they cut his jib.
Conservatives will not win the next election. Probably a majority Labour government, although there are some who would.
What's he doing, loading up a joint?
Depending on what they look at. But let's say, for the sake of argument, my belief that the Conservative Party will be in opposition after the next election. What happens both between now and the election? Of course, because you're a right-wing fucking knobbing. Political analyst, chief political analyst, editor, sorry, for Rupert Murdoch's talk. That's who that guy is. So the political stance of that station comes for him, because everything politically gets. He's the political editor.
And also, Keir Starmer doesn't have the same wave of enthusiasm.
Go and check him out before you think fucking talk about him.
It does seem to me, and you've been around.
Pennies dropped with this top TV stuff, man.
That when the public make up their mind, they kind of make up their mind, and Labour have been ahead in the polls now for 6 months. What will happen between now and the election is potentially, I think, probably the complete lack of discipline we've seen so far. Where
if it's sentimental, you keep it.
Their own
if
chief
it's no,
executive, you've got these
many markets out there for stuff, man. I'm in hundreds of Facebook,
other people,
Masonic Facebook pages,
saying they're going to start a new party. On the
amount of memorabilia you can buy. That Bible's my dad's.
People already
that was a gift for a friend. That was for a York right lodge down in the Blackburn area.
That's my prediction. It'll be half-hearted, which will give Labour a sucker. What will happen after the election, I'm afraid, is what traditionally happens when you go into opposition.
If no Blackburn itself,
the first reaction is we weren't Tory enough. So there'll be the biggest noises will be the noises of people who say, we were half-hearted, we were socialist, we put up taxes, we raised spending, we've got to go ahead with policies of cut taxes.
No, it's not just a Bible, man.
Slash spending, the kind of things actually it's the public don't particularly like or support.
I mean, the Masonic, it's a King James Bible, you're right enough there, right?
Will turn in on itself. It will take a while for a new leader to emerge, just as, frankly, you know where I'm coming from in terms of my
you get an extra recession section
who understands what the vast majority of the centre ground voters
tells you
and puts the Tory
how
back
Freemasons
into the conversation, put the Tory party back into the conversation.
The relationship Freemasons have with the Bible.
Leaders of the Conservative Party in recent years,
mega interesting, man.
Who didn't really fight an election in 2019 on the centre ground and did very, very well.
The people.
Yeah, I think Boris. There are two unique points about Boris Johnson.
Pretty sure I'll get all this documented.
You know, we've just seen the Tories
then goes into Freemasonry and the Bible.
In London, we have a terrible candidate.
The early translations, very interesting section.
The fact is that Boris won.
Makes you understand it's not the word of God.
In a way that I don't think any other Tory could have done.
Freemason, the People's Bible.
Brexit was still a kind of raw.
I talking about the King James and shit.
We were all fed up with Brexit.
The early Freemasons.
And he won.
So if you want to know where Freemasons come from,
He is a unique.
Maybe get a Freemason Bible. See where they say they come from. What they're all about. And how satanic can they be when they've published their own King James Bibles? Huh?
Contractors and tell employees what they can and cannot do with their own contracts.
The early Freemasons.
I think the government should just
Freemasons in the Bible, it goes to show you the builders are the pyramids.
I agree with you. A lot of the time, 0 hours contracts can work really well. But if you happen to be in that strata,
fascinating, man, fascinating. The legend of the craft, the legend of the craft of Freemasonry.
Not if you're right at the bottom with not a lot of jobs.
No, but I think you can. I think because you can get another job straight away.
At the moment,
yeah, I mean, Norman Tebbit said get
origins of the ritual.
Now an e-bike or e-scooter.
Now it would be an e-bike or an e-scooter.
The fact of the matter is the gig economy, and I don't agree with you, Roger. I don't think that the gig economy is a mess.
The old charges and the ritual. Now the charges are governed independently every single lodge, because Freemasonry isn't a centralised organisation. It's centralised to a certain extent, but each lodge is as independent as the other. That's why they all argue about numbers, because you want to be they argue with each other about who came first, you know. There would literally be nothing stopping me from starting up a lodge if I wanted to. It would just be then like...
The Daily Star. I can't log on for work, boss. The sun's done a huge burp.
I hate that guy.
Yeah, apparently
he's got the camera presence of Mike Graham. Should fucking wash himself or something, man.
Flare, known as a sun burp.
Freemasonry in the Bible, there's the Parthenon. How many buildings around the world can that look like the Parthenon have the same facade, the same golden ratio? The Partheno's made all of the golden ratio.
So basically, it's
a golden ratio.
That might happen on
Fibonacci sequence, whatever you want to call it.
So lazy, they want to have
the lodge and religion.
Going back to insurance for a minute,
right?
This used to be one of our realistic.
I'm not shooting for the fucking hip here. I went to the source. I had dinner with the Grand Lodge of Glasgow, telling them about all the stuff that I see in Glasgow's city centre, and they knew what I was saying was exactly spot on. Didn't think I was a lunatic. Just thought, just looked at my YouTube channel because they do their due diligence.
I've got a great little insurance story.
Which is fair enough.
Sadly no longer with us. He owned an insurance company, and his son, I won't say his son's name.
Freemasonry in the Bible, biblical references, it tells you about very specific parts of the Bible.
You know, one of these things where they all chip in for the lottery, the syndicate.
It means something to Freemasons.
And he talked like
biblical
this.
references.
He was good bloke, but he didn't talk like a proper Lancashire lad. And he literally... He went to
biblical references, especially of interest to Freemasons.
Jackpots, they're not going to come back to work. I've got 20 staff. It's
got the focus of my camera turned off, so you won't get a really.
So they did all the checking out, and they went, "Look, our advice is just throwing a quid every week to the syndicate," which is what John Lee did. He wasn't a gambler. I knew him through the church. He wasn't a gambler.
And then you get onto the King James Holy Bible,
a few months
King
later,
Solomon's
his son
Temple.
joined the firm. And there was a young lad who said, "I don't want to throw in a quid every week. I can't afford it anymore because I'm getting saved."
That's King Solomon himself.
I see where this is going. So John's son, in the very first week he works at the company, threw in £1.
The New and Old Testaments translated out of the original Tongues, and with the
so it was about 25,000.
with the former translations dignitely compared and revised by His Majesty's special command, appointed to be read in churches, authorised King James Version, printed by authority, London and New York, Collins Clear Type Press, Glasgow, Toronto, Sydney, Auckland.
And quantitative easing, you know, the money, so much money.
I mean, this is it, right? So inflation has caused
prized possession,
too much
man.
money in the economy chasing too few goods. The Bank of England have continuously printed
And if
money.
you know the Skull and Bones,
We've seen over the last year, actually, a sort of...
know the Skull and Bones, that's that used to be called, the Sutton Trust.
Too much money circulating in the economy, chasing too few
Hold on, I'm
goods.
going to find
We
this.
also have seen,
What time
with
is it?
regard to the housing
Right,
crisis, a huge
Rangers
restriction
game
in
soon.
housing supply. So
Russell Trust.
will probably probably never be able to afford
And reduction in what work.
Right, this is the Russell Trust, the big fucking pot of dough. This is
You went to London school. I'm not messing about. Look, I'm happy to have an argument with you. But at the same time, you're somebody who's got parents who can give you a bit of money towards deposit, not a huge amount. You've gone to the London school.
I don't know if this will give you what I'm after, right? I've done my due diligence on it. Russell Trust is the Skull and Bones. It's the same set of money. It's kind of the money behind that secret society. Their logo, you look at their logo.
And it's that ratio.
If you look at their logo, which is 322, go and read Genesis, chapter 3, verse 22. That's what I think it's referring to, and how like man has dominion over everything on this planet. You know, it's kind of like, and well, it's an ideology. It's in a fucking Bible, I suppose, isn't it? But the Russell Trust, let me see if Russell Trust history. They're guaranteed, founded in, no, that's not. The Fife-based Russell Trust, that's not it. It's not Skull and Bones then. William Huntington Russell, namesake the Russell Trust. But I wasn't going mental, it's just the algos steer you, man. Right, so there's 322. Go to Genesis chapter 3, verse 22. Skull and Bones, everybody gets scared with that, man. It's the Jolly Roger. Like, you go down any old churchyard or anything, man, and you'll see Skull and Bones and everything. It was a sign of death, you know. But it wasn't like a bad thing, it was just to mark it. I'm pretty sure the Jolly Roger has got a lot of different stories behind it as well. These were the original fucking opium smugglers. Let me see. After a dispute among Yale debating societies over the seasons. Look at their symbol. Oh, you can't see that. Oh, what'd that tell you? Huh? That's a boy here, half what I've got up there, isn't it? Isn't he turn the C into a little G? Anyway. So, let's see if it talks about the Russell Trust, but it was William Huntington Russell. First senior members included Russell, Taft, and 13 other members. The Order 322, the Brotherhood of Death, yeah, man, fucking beautiful. Published. I want to see if it touches on. Because they're still about, you know, like George Bush and fucking John Kerry were members of it. I want to see if it touches on symbols and it tells you actually. They've got a different version of the 322. Well, you know, they're all equally. The Russell Trust Association is the business name of the Skull and Bones Society. So there we go, man. I hate to say, I'm fucking surprised myself how much of this shit I can remember from back in the day, man. People just around, Skull and Bones, Masons, Titanic baby shit. Never actually scratch beneath a circus and see what the fuck is actually going on. You must know what a trust is. It's listening to a wee posh bastard in the fucking boozer. Yesterday there was just headphones on. He's like, I've got a trust. After my mod, I know how much is in it. Anyway, you prick. Well, jealous. But you know what a trust fund is? I don't know if anybody knows that. It's a legal thing, a big bag of money that you put in a trust fund and people use that money to make money and people get paid out of the trust fund. It pretty much lasts forever. It's just big, massive bags of fucking cash. And it's held in a trust by lawyers and accountants and all that shit. I'm probably butchering that, but it's along the right lines. Treasurer, assets including endowment policies, notable members. Skull and Bones member was almost limited to us wasps. White fucking proddies. God knows how fucking George Bush and John Kerry get in, they were both fucking... They were fighting each other for the presidency. And they both fucking... each other behind closed doors, man. Jews were most... While some Catholics were able to join such groups, Jews were more often not. It's a Jewish conspiracy, I tell ye. Right? So it's these cunts that set up and controlled Zionism to turn Jews into a human shield to protect Jerusalem. That's my theory. That's what I think. That's what when I say what I see, that's what I see. Christians just sitting there like, letting the place fucking burn. Well, Muslims and fucking Jews are just dying left, right, centre. Everybody either hates the Muslims right now or hates the fucking Jews. Christians are like, making all the love bombs and bullets to fucking get to the fucking Muslims, either directly or indirectly, and the fucking Jews. We've seen the perpetual fucking warfare thing going on there where they kill Hamas, squeeze them more volunteers, which will create the war for decades to come. It's because us wasps want that to happen. That's my theory. Anyway, so there's a wee bit of every day's a school day. But it doesn't tell you about... hold on, where was the Russell Trust? The Russell Trust opium. Because it leaves that wee bit out. How they became fucking where their money was. It is believed that American trade and merchants within the Russell and Company were involved with the trade, sale of opium from the early period. The company's beginning, the trade and sale of opium originally rose. Within the company, they fulfill ongoing trade deficits in substitute of products such as silver. So, now, I know that just says Russell and Company. You know, this is where if I prepared something I could go into all this shit. What will I do? Over that season. Right, so this is the dudes. William, earlier life. So Russell and Co. Aye, so he was part of that. Aye, so the money did come through the opium trades. So just people could suggest it came from the opium trade. And then they put it in a big trust fund, which is still going to this day and producing people who run for president and people who become president. Two runners for the president at the same time. Both sides of the house, you know what I mean? So there's a wee bit of old school conspiratardom way back in the day. Anyway, that's 11:30. Rangers kick off in 30 minutes. I'm going to see if I can get a stream. That's what I'm going to do. Because you should be able to get a wee bit of build up. And I need to bounce to the shop. It's going to work. Shazam! No. Oh man, I'm going to have to funny about trying to get a fucking stream. What's this?
Against Rangers, massive old firm, both of them can still win.
Yeah, baby. Amen. So have a nice day, everybody. No sucking surrender. I'm on the Rangers. Thanks everybody, stick a wee thumbs up. Tune in on Monday again, I'll do one in the morning. Depending on how hungover I am or ramen, I might even stick one on tomorrow morning. Don't know. As he's a couple of hours. Going to be probably watching the news anyway, so might as well do it in this fun way. That's what I'm thinking. Stick a wee thumbs up. Have a good weekend. I'll catch you later. Good cheese. Clips. And remember, citizens, always subscribe. Hit the notification bell as well. And $19.95 plus shipping and handling will keep you out of hell.